Hello and welcome to the big league. We are back after a few weeks off for school things, getting swamped with work, even though it hasn't been as bad since March break. Not March break, February break, because we do reading week in February, and we did it after 4 weeks so that we had 8 weeks in the second half of the semester. But, it is what it is. Got an exam tomorrow, so yay. Aiden, you are not finished yet, I don't believe.
No.
And our guest, Dana Ryan, this week, he is officially done this semester. So congratulations, Dana. But more importantly than you finishing the semester, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, we were talking about it before. I got an essay back for my history of terrorism like half an hour before I hopped on here, and that definitely dampened the mood. But I'm in higher spirits now that I'm talking to you guys, and move on, and then that's in the past now. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited.
We're happy to have you.
Too bad.
Yeah, hopefully this.
You'd be surprised what I'm capable of.
Hopefully this recording goes better than the essay did.
Sure.
But let's start off with the question we love to ask our guests to start off, because it's so much fun to see them squirm and struggle. But what is your first memory of sports, and what is your first memory of sport media?
First, are we talking about like watching sports?
Yeah, sports in general, or playing or watching.
Okay, well, I mean, sports, like playing my whole life, right? So when I was probably 3 years old, I had an older brother, so he was always playing sports, doing whatever. So, younger brothers usually follow in their footsteps. So I was on the ice at 3 years old. Apparently they put me in like hockey camp, but apparently I was doing like snow angels on the ice and stuff like that. But I continued it. So as long as I can remember, snowboarding, hockey, any sport at school. My earliest memories, funny enough, because I'm a massive fan of them now, are probably like actually watching sports, or probably my brother watching the Raptors. And I just hated basketball when I was younger for some reason. I don't think I gave it a chance. I was a WWE guy. Like we got Rogers originally so we could like get Royal Rumble in the pay-per-views. Like that's how much of a WWE guy I was. Can't say the same for now. That was a long time ago. But yeah, he was always watching like, Chris Bosh era Raptors and stuff like that. So I'd always tell him to turn it off because I never cared. And then, yeah, I guess I made the shift once Kyle Lowry came in, and it was funny enough. I was in San Francisco, and I hadn't actually watched a full Raptors game before. I think this was in 2013. So like somewhat recent, like I hadn't actually like cared and watched a full game. And we sat down 2013, 2014, whenever we lost to the Brooklyn Nets in the first round, when they had like
don't remind me.
No, just brutal. Right. And it went down to the last second. And I remember being so hooked in that game. I'm like, basketball is entertaining. Like I actually should continue watching this. And the Raptors were never really a good team up until that point. So yeah, I think it was kind of playing sports I'd always been a part of it. I always loved playing sports, but watching sports was actually like a lot more slow. Like it was a gradual process.
Okay. And then I guess like for sport media, then like your first time like being introduced to, then I guess that kind of relates to it. Just watching that Raptors game, that playoff game, seeing the production, seeing Jurassic Park. Was that kind of your first awareness, I guess, to sport media? Yeah.
So even though I wasn't, I guess, watching full games at the time. Again, my brother was watching SportsCenter every morning. So I would just watch SportsCenter every morning. So I enjoyed that part of it, kind of getting the snippets, not having to watch the full games at that time. And then like Jay and Dan, that was like the big thing for me. So it's really cool. I got to interview Jay like last year or whatever. So that was a really cool experience, because it was like the main reason I really wanted to get into sports media. Obviously, like most people, I wanted to be on air. So I just thought he was different, the kind of comedian aspects. Obviously, a lot of the times reporters or people that do highlights are textbook, and he was something different. So I think that was the first time, like in my head, I was like, this is something that could be interesting, but I don't think I ever thought of it like as a realistic possibility until grade 11 came around, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do in school, because I mean, I was a good student, but I didn't have I didn't like math. I didn't like the sciences. I was okay at them. I could do them. I didn't really care for them. And my biggest thing is I wanted to do something that interested me. So sat down at the table with my mom and she's like, hey, you watch Sports Center every morning. Why don't you do that? And like right away, it was like, that's exactly what it is. I mean, my career goals since then have changed tremendously, but at that time, that was like the first thing where I'm like, yeah, sports media is what I want to do. And I didn't really look back.
Is that the first time you discovered the program? Grade 11? Did like your mom introducing it to you?
Yeah, I had no clue. And also like the College of Sports Media, but I think you needed to like graduate program. I don't think you could have just gone into that. I think you had to do other schooling before that. From what I thought, I don't know. But
I was considering that program.
I think you did.
I
You
think
didn't. You could go straight out of high school. It's just that you'd go straight out of high school. It was only a 2-year program.
Yeah,
so you'd be in the industry right now.
I see. Okay.
Which massively intimidated me. So I didn't really consider that as an option. I'd rather have done a university degree, which thank God I did, because I would not be close to ready to getting into the industry.
You could do both. I know some people that did a 4-year program. I think at Western, this guy named Nolan, who I went to high school with, he did a 4-year program at Western. He's a big sports broadcasting like geek. He's so good at play-by-play. So he went to College of Sport Media after, and he's telling me that he loves it there. So like even for us, like if we want more experience, that's an option. Or for other people that are in different programs at different schools that want a glimpse of what sport media is like and they don't want to do their sport media program at Ryerson, then I think that's another good option.
Yeah, I was applying everywhere. Like, I don't know for you guys, but maybe it was with discussions with my mom that kind of, I don't know, she made it seem like sports media was this like exclusive club that was like the toughest to get into, like the pinnacle of it. So when I was meeting with a couple of people that were in the program, I remember thinking like, you guys are, you're the man. Like, how did you get into this program? And so I was applying, like I went to Durham College. I'd never seen or like really experienced my high school didn't have like studios or anything like that. So I went to Durham College. It was the first time I'd seen a radio studio. So I was like, that's super cool. And they're like, you can host a radio show. I'm like, that's awesome. I want to go to Durham College. I didn't have I wasn't really thinking for the stars because I didn't think sports media was going to be really an avenue. And then I applied to like probably the same program you were talking about at Western that the guy went to. It was like a Fanshawe Western program.
Yep.
Yeah, because my brother went to there was like the in front of the camera, so I think that was the journalism side of it, and then there's the broadcasting side of it as well. It was like 2 separate programs, so he was in the more behind the scenes aspect of it. But yeah, I don't know. Like when they told me I got into the program, because Eric got in first, and I was like, okay, so he got in, so it's possible. And then I think a week later, I was in as well, which was, I mean, it was a long process to get in. You guys know. But I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought for sure I was going to Western or Fanshawe.
Who found out about the program first, you or Eric?
I feel like I would have told him because I definitely hadn't heard of it. I hadn't heard of it before my mom told me. So we were seeing each other every day pretty much. So I probably just said, hey, like this is what I want to do. And I know he was into sports and friends do whatever, want to do everything together or whatever. So we decided to go into it. And yes, I mean, you can ask him, but I think I told him. He should. Okay. He owes me right now. He owes me.
Yeah, hold that over his head for the rest of your life. But we should premise or give a bit of backstory. Dana knows Eric Cruikshank, who's also in 3rd-year sport media. He's known him since like middle school sort of thing. Ish, I'm guessing. Maybe you can go a bit more.
Yeah, it's so we played hockey together for a long time. So I don't know how young that would have been, but the type of guy where if you're playing a sport and you're always in the same league every year, you'll see him on the other team. You might not know him really. You might have friends that know him. So I think it was that for a long time. And then once we, I don't know, I guess our friends got closer. And then by probably like, it's actually tough to think back on it now. Definitely by middle school, we had become really good friends. But again, I think it was more of a gradual build just through hockey and then started hanging out outside of it more. And and then by high school, or by middle school, high school, we were tight as ever. And hockey, hockey brought us together for sure. Like most of my friends are through sports. So, yeah.
Did it make you feel like more comfortable heading into we always cut each other off. It's tough on a Zoom call when you're not looking at each other. Was it more comfortable for you, I guess, heading into this program, knowing someone that you were really close with? Did that really help with the transition?
Definitely. I would have been way more nervous going into that class, even going to the orientation where you don't know anybody. It's always a guy that any class you have somebody to sit beside. If you're going to eat lunch, somebody to sit beside. If you have to meet with other people, somebody just to break the ice. So it's not just you two. Definitely. We took pretty much, I think the first 2 years, like up until this year, I think we took pretty much every single class together. So somebody that, especially in first year, if you're having trouble with a project or if you need to go to somebody with a project, easy to message him. So yeah, did you guys know anybody going to the program?
I knew Zach. I wasn't like too close with him, but like he's from Oakville. We played baseball together in our final year, actually, before the program. So we were like talking about the program, like as we were on the team and like just the possibility of going there. So yeah, I knew him. I kind of knew Jackson a little bit because he was also from Oakville. Connor, what about you?
I came in completely blind. I knew one person in journalism who I played soccer with in high school. He was a year older than me. He was a very, very good soccer player. But other than that, I didn't really know anyone. I literally came in blind. I'd met Adam Iafredi in sport media, who was a few years older than us, once at the university fair, who told me to start a blog, which 100% helped me to get in to the program. But yeah, I came in completely blind, and it's definitely interesting hearing you talk about the fact that having somebody like Eric was really helpful to your first couple of years, like just having somebody to break the ice. And I'm just interested to know, going back to like high school, how helpful was it knowing that there was somebody else in the program, like who was going or applying for the same program as you, in terms of figuring out like when you need to do stuff and maybe getting feedback on certain things that you have to complete?
Definitely. Like I said, me and Eric enrolled in every class together. We pretty much applied for every school, like the same schools for every single program, right? So we were pretty much tied together. So if one of us didn't get in the program, it would have been, I don't even know, because I was nervous when I saw he got in. I'm like, I can't not get, like, that makes it sound bad. Not that because he gets in, I can't, like, you know what I mean? But it just made me like, oh, that would suck if he gets in, but I don't. A little bit of jealousy, I guess. Crap, what was your question? I went on
How helpful was it having somebody else applying to the same program as you?
And his mom, Jody, is like on top of everything, right? So even when he was like refereeing, she like lays out the schedule, everything he needs to do. So she's on top of everything, due dates, like deadlines, everything. So it definitely helped where a lot of the burden and the responsibility, obviously a lot of it's on me, but it was nice to kind of say like, hey, go tell my dad, like, go talk to Jody. You guys can figure it out. So yeah, I think anytime you're not the only one doing something that has, I don't know, a lot of weight in it, like university applications or going to university, having somebody else that's in literally like the exact same boat. Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to done it without him. I could have done it without him, but it made the process so much easier.
Okay. Well, let's keep talking about that process then, because there was a lot that needed to be done in that, like, I don't know, 2-week span or month span. Honestly, it took a while to get everything done. So how was it, like, writing the essay, and then just going for the interview itself? We always like to figure out who interviewed people, because we've had so many different names. Some people don't remember. Some people know the name of the person, but they've never seen them ever again at Ryerson. So who interviewed you, and how did that whole like interview process go?
Yeah, so Joe interviewed me, but I got kind of lucky. So it was so I knew in high school that when I figured out I wanted to do sports media, I knew that's all I wanted to do. So I took summer school classes. I took like an English program, right? So I took English in summer school just so I could get like the best mark I could, because I didn't want to risk going to, like, I would get 80s and 82s or whatever in high school, but I knew I needed to get like the high marks to get into this program. So I was doing it with my neighbor, Jeremy, and we were driving to school one day, to summer school, and his mom just asked, like, what do you want to do? What's the program you want to do? So I said sports media, and she's like, hey, I know the program director, Joe Recupero. Like, he plays soccer with my husband, like Dave, like the husband. So I'm like, that's a pretty good contact. So she's like, yeah, I'll give you his number. You get in contact with him. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty sweet. So I'm texting Joe. He's kind of giving me some advice, stuff like that. He also told me, there's no for sure that I'm going to interview you, but it might happen. It might not. So whatever. And then I think a month later, probably, I went to, Balzac's, like the coffee shop on campus. So I went and I met with somebody that my mom knew that was already in the program. And then she was about to leave. And then she comes over and she's like, hey, like, Joe's talking to somebody right now in the corner. He was helping somebody with his thesis paper, but he's still like, I interrupted, and he talked to me for pretty much, did the interview right on the spot there. I went over, talked to me, asked what I did, why I wanted to be in the program. And then at the end of it, he's like, okay, I'll try to figure out if I can interview or not. Again, not sure if it's going to happen. And then interview day came. He apparently wasn't supposed to interview me, but he like finagled a little bit and got in there. So I got lucky, and then we interviewed. And so we had pretty much already done the interview in Balzac's, but I guess kind of redid it a little bit. And he still was kind of tough to read, though. Like, I don't know if he was liking what I was telling him, because the way he was reacting, he was like, okay. And I'm like, okay, like, you seem to like me before. What's happening now? But I don't know. It made me a little nervous. But hey, I guess he gave me a good recommendation and got me in the program. So yeah, I got pretty lucky. The friend I was going to summer school with, his mom knew him. So.
And she didn't ask you that question.
I know. I mean, I got lucky, and then lucky enough that he was there in like Balzac's meeting with another person, and then the girl introduced me to him. It was just, I mean, it was it all came together, and I was lucky. But yeah, in the writing process, I hated it. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it was just such a stressful time, because my mom likes to read over my stuff, and she probably read over like the answers, whatever the questions we had to answer before. You know how you would go in and you wrote the essay or whatever, and you do the interview, but before that you had to hand in like a pamphlet of answers to the certain questions. So that was like a 3-month process, because my mom probably proofread it like 50 times because she wanted it to be perfect. She kept giving it back to me, kept having to change it. So that was a stressful period. But I don't know. When I went to the interview, I actually knew some people that like I already knew, and they're kind of clowns. So I'm like, okay, I know I'm in a decent boat here. And they didn't end up making the program, but we're here, so that's all that matters.
Oh, firing shots. What day did you interview? Do you remember what day you did it, and what did you wear?
I definitely wore a suit. What day? I don't know. Well, like,
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what day. I mean, I've never really been a flashy dresser, so I don't know if I wore my prom suit. I probably wore whatever I had to look a little bit spiffy. Did my hair up a little bit probably, but can't remember the day. I was nervous. I remember the only person I remember talking to was John, and John had gone to St. Mike's. So I knew St. Mike's. I'm like, we have some connection there, I guess, even though I'd played hockey at the rink there before. So other than that, I didn't know anybody except for, I guess, the bozos I knew before. But yeah, so I was nervous on that day, but it worked out.
What high school did you go to?
RH King Academy.
Oh, okay, so I don't know you then.
Wait, what school did you go to? Are you in Toronto?
Greenwood. Yeah, I went to Greenwood College.
Oh, okay. I know. I can picture, is it by Greenwood Park?
No, it's it's literally right on the corner of Mount Pleasant and Davisville.
Oh, yeah, I never heard of that. Well,
Okay.
yeah, we wouldn't have crossed paths.
No, you might have played a hockey team. Okay. Were you private or public?
Public.
Oh, okay. That makes sense then.
We're called an academy though, just to sound nice. Because we're supposed to be like, you needed like a 60 average to get into school. It was a bit tougher. Like, definitely. I mean, when I did, like, have you heard of Birchmount? Like, most people know what Birchmount public school.
I
So
recognize
that's
the
like
name.
the Weekend went there. Wayne Simmons went there.
Oh yeah, is that
PK Subban
yeah.
went there. My brother went there, putting him in the same boat as all those guys. But anyways, like RH King's right by there. So I had a lot of friends that went there, and that was, I guess, kind of our rival school, even though they kicked the crap out of us in athletics. But we were just this, I guess, the smarter school. We were the academy, so it was pretty prestigious.
Just casually flexing on everyone.
No, it was
Nice.
again, you only needed a 60 to get in. It wasn't that tough.
Okay, yeah. I went to a private school, which is why like all the private schools play each other, right? So I figured if you're a private school, odds are one of my sports teams played you, even though we are in a very big school.
No, yeah, we were definitely a public school. Definitely a public school.
That's hilarious. Yeah, my parents are from, I guess my parents are from Scarborough. Grew up there. I think they went to, I can't remember where they went, but yeah,
Scarborough's big. I mean, there's schools in Scarborough that I don't even know. So
yeah, same with Toronto. Like, apart from my little area, I don't know anything. But like, when you were applying to the program, how much help did you get from your school? Did they do anything for you?
None. No, I don't.
References?
Oh yeah, well yeah, definitely. Like, I think you needed references, right? So I was close. Like I was close with my principal. He's my volleyball coach, so that helped. And he was just the nicest guy. He just always had a big jolly smile on his face. So anytime I'd see him in the hallways, we talk back and forth. So had a good reference there. One of my teachers I actually went to Europe with, like, not like just we were just going on vacation together, but it was like one of those high school Europe trips. And I'd always been cool with her before, so she was another one of my references. And then I think I got my hockey coach. So yeah, I mean, they didn't really, like, I don't remember going to guidance and asking for any help in terms of maybe mostly like deadlines and stuff like that, more like information about university application. But in terms of, no, they didn't really. I don't think they really knew much about sports media because it was kind of new at the time too. And everybody from my school was just engineering and being a doctor. Like, medical school and engineering is pretty much it. Those are the two paths. So that's what they focused on a lot. But
what kind of courses did you take? Because I'm curious, because you said you weren't big on the maths and the sciences, and then obviously to get in this program, you might have wanted to take like some media related courses, right?
Yeah. So I took in grade 12, I took a presentations course, which was kind of interesting because that was one of the main reasons why I actually thought sports media would be a good path for me, because I was always just a good public speaker and I always felt comfortable. So I took the presentation class to kind of take that to the next step. I took an English media course, which it was weird. Like, we were supposed to write, the whole thing was we're supposed to write the school newspaper. So over the course of the semester, you have to write a certain amount of articles to be put into it. Certain people do comics. You go get advertisements, so you actually get money and you advertise in the newspaper. And then we were supposed to use that money to have a lunch at the end of or like a dinner at the end of the semester. And then the guy didn't release the newspaper and then didn't give us like a lunch or anything with the money we made. So kind of screwed us over in that class.
Like, he just pocketed the money?
I don't know what he did. He was a nice guy. Like, Mr. Gillies is a good dude. I don't want to talk crap about Mr. Gillies, but yeah, I just didn't hear about him. Like, didn't hear from him. It was just, the semester just ended. Paper was never released. I put 4 articles in that one, like nothing. And then, so English media, again, like, my grade 12 was great. I liked grade 12 a lot because I knew I was going into sports media. So I took English in the summer. Again, I thought English in the summer was going to be a breeze. First day I showed up, the guy was like a university professor in Baltimore, and he, like, this is what he does. And he was like, you might think this is going to be easy, but you're going to get the same course load that you would get throughout the entire semester. And then the other class was getting all 95s. Our average was like a 62 for the class in summer school. I'm like, okay, so I was a little nervous. Came out with it with a really good mark though, which was happy. I think he liked me, which helped. I sucked up to him. He was a scary dude though, but so my semester was pretty laid out for sports media. I had already had my good English mark. My toughest course was food nutrition in grade 12. So that kind of tells you what I was doing that semester. Other than that, presentation course. And I think that was in terms of like something directed to sports media, again, they didn't like, my school was all academics. It was all engineering and doctors. So there wasn't any like the school TV station or whatever. I hear of other people, they have like full broadcasts and stuff like that. Nothing like that. So yeah, it was kind of crap, but did what we could.
Yeah, Aiden, why don't you tell them about your full broadcast setup?
Oh, you were one of those ones, eh? Oakville?
Yeah. Zach,
All the
Zach,
rich people.
No. You guys are probably richer over there. What are you saying? No.
Maybe.
No. Yeah. Zach's school in Oakville had a studio, and then my school as well had a studio. I actually switched schools in grade 11 just to go to this new high school that has the studio.
Damn.
And that really helped me get into the program. So yeah, I guess I was lucky in that sense to get some experience there.
Yeah, you're not alone in that front of not having a studio, Dana.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was a foreign concept to me before meeting Aiden. So
yeah, I know. I'd heard of it. I heard I think actually probably mostly from TV shows and movies. Like you'd see the people in the doing the morning news or whatever for the school, stuff like that. So
Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. None of that. No, it was all academics in our school, except a lot of people weren't good at them.
Man, just call it out yourself.
Every school has them. I just don't want you thinking that I went to some like preppy, like super smart school. It might have been a little tougher, but it definitely didn't.
Hey, to get in, you needed a 60. So
exactly.
That's saying something.
But apparently when my brother applied, I guess I don't know what it was. If you, at that time, you had to walk up and like give them your grades, and that's how it worked. And apparently the person ahead of them didn't have good enough grades to get in. So, I mean, sucks for them.
Wow.
That's wow.
I mean, yeah. Hey, yeah, I don't know. Some people, elementary school is not so easy for them, I guess.
It's just like grades. Nope, decline.
No,
get out of here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't even like, and I went through the leadership. We had like a leadership program, which I thought, I mean, the way it was sold to me, it was like the way to get into university. It looked so good on your portfolio. So you need to do, what was it? Instead of like you regularly need to do 40 hours for school, right? Something like that. So I needed to do 100 for the leadership program. And then on top of that, you needed to take leadership, like driven courses, and you had to do like meetings and write-ups after school sometimes. The first 2 semesters or the first 2 years of high school, it kind of made sense. Like we're actually doing something. And then by the last 2 years, I was like, why did I even, like, it was so useless. We did nothing. It was more just a burden. I'd have to go and listen to guest speakers that I didn't really care about, and then write page-long reports on them for no marks. Like it was all extra, just leadership stuff. And I think I put it on my resume or whatever, but nobody even brought it up. So yeah.
I feel like that'd be a good resume piece though. Like no matter what. You
would think, yeah. I think it did have some, and I definitely worked it into my interview a little bit. I definitely massaged the whole leadership, the whole leadership aspect of it. But realistically, it was just a burden. It was really just a burden.
Did you go to like a leadership camp at all, like in like elementary school, or because I know there's something in Oakville at least that an opportunity for kids like in this leadership program to go to like a summer camp. It's called, what's it called? Like OELC, I think. OELC.
I went through leadership program in grade 9. We went to something called Camp Robin Hood. So I
recognize that name.
Yeah. And we played games, and it was just during the day, and it was just one day, but we played some games. I guess I don't even remember. It was grade 9. I don't really remember what we did. I guess set up little activities and learned how to cooperate with each other. I don't know. But other than that, no, they weren't. Again, it was very bare bones. It was more just like a burden. I think it was, to be honest, it's more of a thing that RH King could have to attract people into the program. I think more than actual like benefits from it. And yeah, maybe it did help on my resume, but who knows really.
I take it you weren't a summer camp kid then?
No, I mean, I always had to go to summer camp because my parents worked, I don't know, like long hours during the day. So I had to go to summer camp, but I was not a fan. Especially the day camps. Oh, Camp Riverdale. Did you ever go to that one? I know a lot of people that went. It was in like a park, and you would set up. It was actually okay. It was actually pretty sweet. because you would pretty much pick a specific sport. So I picked rock climbing. So they'd like take you out to and do rock climbing. Some people pick dodgeball, but you'd just be doing dodgeball in a park every day. Like, it's weird. And what was the other one I picked? It was rock climbing and something else. Anyways, so it was pretty sweet, but you're rock climbing for probably 8 hours of the day for 2 weeks straight. So like by the end of it, you're like, I'm not really a fan. And it's the same walls. It's not you're mixing it up, going to different places. So yeah, I mean, I liked going away for summer camp, and I did a couple of those. I went to, I don't know, HOC, like Hockey Opportunity Camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to HOC, and then I went to Camp Kawartha for one summer.
Okay.
So on the Kawartha Lakes, went with a few of my buddies. And other than that, yeah, I was just not a fan of summer camp.
Okay. For some reason, you struck me as a summer camp kind of guy. I don't know what vibes you gave off, but
I don't think, because I don't know. I always remember, like, I had a big, like, a really close group of friends in elementary school. And I remember anytime I'd go to any other school, I'm like thinking, like, how do people even survive here? But it was just because I was in such like my own comfort zone in this school, that any other, like, going to any other school or being any other friend group just didn't ring true for me. Right. So I'd go to summer school by myself, and I'd be like, I could make friends, but I didn't, like, right off the bat, I just didn't feel comfortable being with a bunch of people I really didn't know. And of course you'd get to know them after a while, but if you're only going to the camp for like 1 or 2 weeks, then and I didn't get to choose the camp a lot of the time. It was just like, you're going to this camp. It's like, oh, it's what we're doing. Hop on the bus and go.
Yeah, it definitely takes time to like mesh in with new friends for sure. And if it's only for like a summer, for like a couple of weeks, it definitely like it makes you feel that you don't need to like, build a good relationship with these people. Were these people like close in terms of like where you lived, or like from all over?
Yeah, I mean, probably from all over. I don't think I ever went to a camp that was like right beside me. Like, it was always at least driving 40 minutes, like 30, 40 minutes. So I did one sit camp. It was a robotics camp. It was pretty dope. It was like Lego robotics pretty much. So you got to program like different tracks, and you have different competitions with people, and you build robots. And again, I did that with another person. So it kind of the same Eric situation, having somebody else there helped a lot. Especially because robotics was totally out of I wasn't a big programming dude. I wasn't a big like technology guy. So, I mean, it was a learning curve for me. So that was probably the most fun, just because it was so different and you're actually like competing. So I think probably the competition aspect of it also helped me and made me enjoy it more. Smash kids and ping pong in the back. They had like a nice, like, you see those outdoor, like in the parks.
Sting
like
pong.
Outdoor.
Oh, yeah, I love sting pong.
So
sting pong is the best. You've never played?
I don't think I played that. No.
Okay.
What's the difference?
I always miss.
What's the difference between that and like regular ping pong?
When you lose a point, you just get to hit a ping pong ball as hard as you can at your opponent's back.
Oh, okay. That sounds fun. We should do it.
Yeah.
I remember.
Got a ping pong table right there. Let's do it.
Oh, I remember us kids were crazy back in the day. I had a BB gun, and we used to play almost sting pong, but with truth or dare. Not truth or dare, probably just dare. Like, you had to do something, and if you didn't do it, you get shot in the back with a BB gun. And if you got hit in your spine, man, I only did it once, because I'm like, this is just not a good idea. Like, this is this is an elementary school stupid idea, and it's exactly what it was. So. And
you were 18 when you did it.
No, that would be.
It was yesterday.
It wouldn't surprise me, but.
Let's guide us back a little bit, because we got a little bit off track, and we'll guide it back by this question. What do you think would have helped you most in first year in terms of making friends and sort of building relationships with people in the program?
I mean, living downtown would have helped a lot. Me and Eric, we'd have classes with people and you talk with people, but then I don't know, a lot of people would go back to their dorms. They'd be having parties that night, and we'd just be going back to the city. So I think that was probably, I mean, there's nothing you can really do about that. I think that was probably the biggest thing, because once I got to know the people, and I got a lot of close friends in the program now, it just took time to build those relationships and spend more time together. But in first year, it was just tough, because you were kind of in school and then you're out. And especially in the first semester, you kind of you talk to other people, but I wasn't really, I don't know, you weren't hanging out with them after, you weren't really close friends. So that was mostly like the first close friend I had in the program was Zach, because me and Eric had like big 7-hour gaps in between classes in first semester on Thursdays. So we just had nothing to do. We'd be trying to sleep in the student center. We would do whatever, just mind melting. And then Zach's like, he'd come to my place and play like NHL and like 2K and stuff. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, I'd definitely be down to do that. So then we started going there, hanging out with him in his dorm all the time. And then that's how I got introduced to Jackson. They got introduced more to Thomas and Cole and all those guys. So yeah, I think it's just, I don't know. I think what really helped me would have just been living downtown. But again, nothing you really could have done about that, except I want to make my parents drop the money on it. But
yeah, that's a little expensive as opposed to a couple grand on TTC tokens.
Well, and when I went for my tour, we did check out the residences. So I was like, am I going to go in residence? And she's like, I mean, it's a possibility. But now that I look back on it, like, I don't know. I feel like it's not the university experience to the full effect. Like, you're still downtown. It's even though you're in residence, it's just, I don't know. It feels different than when I go to Guelph and I go to those dorms. It feels way more of just like a complete university experience. So I don't regret it. It's just, I think it probably would have helped for the initial getting closer to people, because right away you could already see the people in the program that like lived in the same buildings were pretty much friends right away. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing with Ryerson is no matter what, you're not going to get the typical university experience because you're in the heart of one of the biggest cities in the country, or the biggest city in the country, one of the biggest cities in North America. Yeah. And there isn't really the opportunity to do that because you're in the heart of that city. So it's the same thing with New York. The city never sleeps. And
you're walking out, there's crackheads yelling at you, people spitting at you. Like, and I kind of like that, to be honest, not in terms of getting spit up by drug addicts, but yeah, just because I'm in the suburbs, so it's a lot more quiet here. And it's just nice to kind of go get the action. That's a big thing I miss about COVID, is just going downtown and like feeling the energy of the city, and then being able to come back to Scarborough and it's a lot more quiet. So I like the best of both worlds for sure.
I think also just being in sports, like having Scotiabank Arena there, and like, you know, we have classes at night and there's like a Leafs game or there's a Raptors game, and you just feel the energy that you just walk in around like Yonge and Dundas, like everybody's hyped up for the games, especially around playoff time too. Now would be really nice to be downtown. But yeah, I get it. Cause like, you know, Guelph and all the other universities basically are like closed off, and you get that full like residential experience, and you're like tight knit with all the people in the school. But now it's like people coming from all over, like, and people in our program, like they come from so far away, and they got to commute a long ways. So it is different, but I don't know. It is a tough transition in the first year, but what were some positives that you took away from first year in terms of classes? What kind of classes have you been interested in the most so far at Ryerson? And I guess that's the question.
Yeah, I guess like probably, I mean, the most impactful by far, which you wouldn't think, the most impactful course that I've taken so far was second year single camera. So again, I went into the program wanting to be on air. So I did a lot of that in the first semester. And then I know Joe was he had been talking about his documentary course, which I took this semester. And there was a couple prerequisites. So he wanted you to take single camera and he wanted you to take editing specialties. So I'm like, okay, screw it. I'll take single camera. Not really expecting much. It was also a heavy workload because it was TV lab and single camera in the same semesters. And they were two double, or the one, I think single camera was a double credit. TV lab was a double credit too.
Yeah.
So it was in second year, you remember second year, the paperwork, like the amount of paperwork. So that was double because I was doing paperwork for single camera as well, which was tough. But I don't know, I fell in love with like watching movies, and that kind of led to editing, and I don't know, just led to, I guess, like more the creation of content rather than being in front of the camera. So if I didn't take the single camera course, I don't think I'd be editing now. I would be surprised. And, I made a short film in the summer, and I'm doing the documentary now. So things that I would have never done if I didn't take that single camera course. So that was definitely, like, if I have to look back on a single course that changed everything, or at least had the biggest impact, it would be that one. And then beyond that, probably like TV lab and stuff like that.
Thank God we didn't get another TV lab. We got a unique course for the first time.
Who was the prof of that course?
Single camera?
Yeah.
Zach Cox. The guy did our
interesting.
production theory, which was like, Yeah, I mean, it's a very different course, right? So I was a big fan of him. He was a pretty witty dude. He was nice, and he was teaching content that doesn't make you want to rip your hair out. At least for me, it was just so. Again, it's just a more of a visual thing. So for him to be able to, I don't know, it's also it's what he loves to do. He's a colorist, so he's really passionate about it. And the atmosphere of the course in general is a lot more fun than 8 a.m. production theory. Right. So yeah,
I think movie theater.
Yeah,
in the winter,
trying to fall asleep every morning. So he was a great teacher. I was a big fan of Zach Cox. And then we had who was that really nice guy? Will. He's like an assistant. You might see him around. I don't know. That might be a long shot, but I had him as well. And yeah, they're just that definitely. And I met people from the media program there as well who were really into movies, and yeah, it just sparked.
That seems really cool. Yeah. It seems like you're really versatile. You know, you're not just limiting yourself to one thing, but it seems like you really found your passion, I guess, for editing and content creation.
Definitely. Like I have a lot of interest, but yeah, editing has been now is the main focus.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk a little bit about the documentary that you just made? Because I was in your class, I saw that. Amazing job. Who was in your group? Thomas, Cole,
and Eric.
And Eric, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you want to tell a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, going into the pitch, we had a couple different ideas, but again, like Joe was very optimistic about the lockdown and that it was going to be open and that we were going to have a lot of like availability with people, which I was a little more open to it, but I guess in general, it was at the point we were locked down. So it didn't seem like things were going to open up soon. So the idea of going into people's houses and interviewing, getting all this cool B-roll didn't really seem like a possibility. So I knew that, Thomas, Drew, and them had done the broadcast for the 2019 baseball season. Did you know about that? So they had all this footage and they had all this play-by-play commentary. So I kind of looked at that and said, hey, if we can't shoot a lot of the B-roll footage because we're in COVID, why don't we just use the footage that's already there, work with it, and then build the story around that? So yeah, that's what we did. I didn't really know how it was going to work out. We got lucky that the main guy who we talked to, we were able to go to his house, which was nice. And then the rest of them were Zoom interviews, like you saw. But yeah, it was stressful by the end of it. I mean, just as an editor, it was a lot. It was fun though. Like I enjoyed it. It was just, I was happy to get it done with at the end, just because everything goes well until the end. Technology starts breaking down. It just started getting really stressful. But
how much stuff did you have?
It was a great experience.
How much stuff did you have to delete off of your computer to like download all the footage?
Oh, I mean, I deleted I had like a 2 terabyte hard drive that I bought because I needed a new one anyway. Yeah. So I'm like, So that did that, and like I said, we got lucky. Like guy we interviewed was great, and he had a good story. So it was just a fun experience. I enjoyed it, and it was kind of nice to, again, being an editor, it's kind of lonely, but it's also, I'm the type of guy that likes the control. I don't like too many hands a lot of the times getting in there and just kind of messing with the vision. So I think it works out perfectly for me to, again, not that Thomas people had input into it, but the ability to kind of start from scratch and create what your vision is. That was a lot of fun for me.
For sure.
Who was your subject?
Mitch Fiacco. So he is an outfielder for the Rams baseball team. And he actually had a good story. Like he talked about it. So I'm sure you'd be fine with me talking about it, but his mom had passed away. I'm not exactly sure what she passed away from, but she had passed away, I believe, like a few years prior to it. And it kind of inspired him to want to continue playing baseball and try harder and then go to the university team. So we kind of built his story around that and how they persevered through the season, because they hadn't won a playoff game in a long time and they were kind of crappy up until that point. So it was a big breakout season for them and they had a lot of big wins over dominant teams. So yeah, Mitch Fiacco was our main guy. And then we just had we sprinkled in other baseball players from the team just for like insight and stuff like that into the games.
Yeah,
Will you be up? Oh,
yeah. Sorry. Will you be uploading it? Yeah.
Will you be uploading it to your YouTube channel?
I've been trying. I'm gonna. I've been going. I mean, the last 2 days I haven't tried just because the exam and everything, and I was just studying a lot. But I think I was just because I was trying to download it on my phone because I just downloaded my phone through Google Drive and then post it to Instagram and stuff like that. And I post most of my stuff through my phone. And it wasn't letting me download it, so I don't know. I'll try after this, but I'll probably just have to go through a different means. I don't know. It just wasn't downloading for me, and then I know it's going to be posted though. I have to post it somewhere, right?
Gotta promote it.
Yeah, and I mean, we submitted it to the Terra. So
okay.
Oh, nice.
Did you submit yours to the Terra?
We haven't done it yet, but I assume we will. I got to talk to my group about that. It's been a hectic couple of days. We're trying to get like the release forms done for the talent.
Yeah.
We didn't get it done. Our talent never got back to us. But Joe said it was fine.
Yeah, how was getting interviews for you guys? Because it was
you know what?
Headache for us.
Well, shout out to Kobe Mitchell. Kobe organized everything for us with the interviews, and he knew the contacts. But it was stressful for him, and it was also stressful for Matthew, Peter, and I, because we were always bugging him like, "Hey, are you on top of this stuff? Like, have you heard back from them? Like, we need talent." And then actually, so we were gonna go to Kingston on like one of the Fridays. And then the Thursday before, one of the talents canceled on us because he said he had to go to Quebec for a tournament. And I was like,
what tournament?
Yeah, well, yeah, first of all, there's that. Like, what tournament? But he's a scout, so I guess he's got to scout someone. And maybe it's just like a mini private thing. But like a day before, and like we had the plan to go there on Friday. Luckily, like our other talent was still down to shoot, so we still went for that. But that was a little bit hectic. But I don't know. It was good. Just shout out Kobe. He really did a great job organizing it all. But yeah, your documentary was really good. I like the beginning. The beginning, like the music and the title card, I think, is like really fast paced. I really like that.
You guys, your title, because you were the scouting one, right? Your beginning was sick. I mean, that hooked you right in. I think same for you guys. That was like right off the bat. I'm like, that looked professional. But yeah, no, I think the beginning is like the most important part, right? Hooks you right in. I mean, the rest of it has to be good. But if the first minute is slow or boring, nobody's going to care.
Yeah, exactly. The voiceover that Thomas did, was that a voiceover or was that clips from? Okay, yeah.
No,
I knew that. I knew that when watching. I was like, did he record this like last year? But no, he just did it over top. It sounded like that. Yeah.
It made it so much easier. Like the control of being also. It made it easier because it gave him a chance to, or gave us a chance to kind of set up the context of the games and the story, rather than having to do it with either text or trying to get a player to kind of say what the importance of the story was. It was easy for him to kind of just say, this is what's happening. This is what they need to do in the game. If they don't win this game, this is what's going to happen. So it also just fills time in between, makes the footage a little more interesting. So yeah, we originally weren't going to do the play-by-play voiceover, but I don't know. Also, there was just so many people did, like every game had a different play-by-play guy, and we wanted one like unified, like one voice to tell the story. So rather than having like, I think Bowen was calling one, Jackson was calling a game, Thomas was calling a game. So it's just a lot of different voices that, I don't know, we wanted just the one guy. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. It was really well done. So if you upload it, I can put it in the description below of this video. Okay. So people can check it out. Or yeah, just let me know when it's up and I can edit the description, whatever. I think this will be up tomorrow, probably.
Okay, I'll try to upload it tonight then.
Hey, right after whenever works for you.
We'll link to your YouTube channel no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
So people can just regularly check there for whatever content you create over the summer.
Sweet.
Because I don't know if you have a job this summer, given COVID, but
yeah, I mean, I was supposed to. It's a little confusing. I was supposed to be going to my 5th year. I work at like a sailboat club in the summer. It's kind of a joke of a job, to be honest. Like even last year, it's fun times. A lot of movie watching. But so I messaged him this year. I was supposed to start Saturday, and he messaged me back pretty much saying, I don't know if he said I wasn't working, but he said, we don't know what's going on. Like, what did you do last year? And then I haven't heard back from him since, because last year was delayed as well, and I still worked. I was just like they would just drive in, I would just sign them in, and that's all I was doing. So I was just signing people in. So it's a pretty easy job. But yeah, that's usually my summer gig, and that's a lot of hours. It's usually like 6 days a week, but it's good hours. It's like 11 to 5 or something, or 10 to 5. So it's pretty prime time. Get a sleep in a little bit, and then still have the nighttime. So
yeah, got to reset our sleep schedules. I don't know about you guys, but mine is just ruined. Like it is so bad right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always just I'm obsessed with alarm clocks for some reason. Like I can't remember the last time I didn't set an alarm clock like every day. And it's not like I'm setting like 7 a.m. I get up and I'm being super productive. It's like, even if it's 10 o'clock or like 11 o'clock, I always have to set an alarm clock. And I usually wake up before it. So I don't know. I feel like I was more of a night owl. I mean, especially if I'm editing, I'm a little more of a night owl, but during this semester, I feel like I had a decent amount of time during the day. So I was getting a lot of stuff done during the day. And I like video games, but again, like the technology in this house isn't great. The Wi-Fi is not great. So we can't, like the Wi-Fi barely stretches the basement where my PS4 is. Can't connect online. I've never played online. So it's not like I'm staying up all night talking to people and I'm playing video games. So other than that, I watch a lot of movies and that keeps me up at night. But I don't know. I think in high school, my schedule was all over the place. Even though like you'd have to wake up. I can't believe we'd have to wake up at 7 a.m. or whatever every morning. Like thinking back on that now is crazy. And I was going to bed at like 3:34 and then waking up, like just brutal hours. So I think, I don't know, setting an alarm for me has just been like a game changer. Just because I know I'm going to wake up at the time. And if I go to bed super late, I don't know, my body just, I have no explanation. I'm just rambling here.
I need to set alarm clocks. I don't set alarm clocks at all, especially nowadays because I don't need to. But I only set, okay, for me, so like my sleep schedule is really messed up. But before this lockdown, I would go to work on Saturday mornings and they would make me start at 8 a.m. in the morning. So of course, like all the other days I'm sleeping until like 11. So then on Friday night, I always have to set my alarm. And I'm just terrified going to bed because I don't think it's going to wake me up on time. So I have to like trick my brain into like, I like take a really close look at my clock, the time I go to bed. I count the amount of hours to when I have to get up. And I just like tell my brain, like, I got to be up at this time. And I normally am. The alarm doesn't wake me up though. Like it just doesn't. I wake up like 10 minutes before the alarm goes off.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I used to wake up from vibrations. Like my phone in high school, my alarm was just a vibration on my phone. Like I'm a pretty, like I get woken up pretty easy. Now that I think about it, I mean, I've thought about it before. I think the main reason why I set an alarm clock is because I get anxiety in the morning when I wake up and I don't know what time it is. So I don't know. I don't want to check my phone a lot of the time because if I check my phone, it's game over. I can't go back to bed. So if I wake up, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, it must be 2 p.m. But if I set my alarm, I know it can't be past 10:30 because I can't be past 11 o'clock because the alarm hasn't gone off yet. And I always wake up in the night. I don't know why. I just always do. And I always wake up at some point, like early in the morning and then try to go back to bed. So I feel like, I don't know, it just gives me some sort of like indication of this is when like it hasn't reached this time of the day yet. You're good to stay in bed, where if I thought it was noon, I'd be like, oh, I got to get out of bed. But because I know I've set my alarm and it hasn't reached that point, I'm chilling.
I didn't think when I brought up sleep schedules, this would become an in-depth topic, but here we are.
If you want to get into sleep,
there's an entire class.
I'm a vivid dreamer.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah, vivid dreamer. I just like sleep. Yeah, it's I think that's one of the reasons too. It's just like I wake up in the morning, I remember almost all my dreams, and so I'm thinking about it in my head, and that keeps me up. It's just the mornings are weird, man. The mornings are weird. So I have a dream log and everything. I write everything down. It's
There's an elective that you can take at Ryerson.
I tried.
I tried too. I didn't get in.
I didn't get in either. I know. I was pissed.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, there are some weird courses at Ryerson. Like there are some weird courses, but we could dive into that later. Instead, we should dive more into you and more into the stuff that you've done, because we focused a lot on Ryerson, a lot of that stuff. But let's start with what you started. I guess first, I'd assume, which was being a reporter for the Scarborough Youth Hockey League. What went into that, and like what was your sort of role there?
Yeah, so me and Eric had gone to like a university fair, and sports media, probably what you did, like there was a booth there, and we talked to whoever like the representative was of Ryerson, sports media. And he pretty much said, you want to like build some sort of like a portfolio or something going into the program that you can show that you've done. So one of them was we started a blog where we were like writing articles on hockey and basketball or whatever. And then the other thing was they had SYHL, so it's what I played hockey. It was the league I played hockey with growing up. They had like a weekly news article, and they had different people that would write the weekly news article. And it happened that the Marlies were doing a practice at the rink, like through the SYHL, and they needed somebody to go and report on it and like interview kids and interview parents. I didn't know if we were going to be able to interview the Marlies. I didn't know what we were going to be able to do. I was hoping, but we didn't get anywhere close to them. It was just like parents and kids. So yeah, that was more of a resume. Like that was something to add on the resume. Also get good experience because it's pretty nerve wracking walking up to, like, I always think about it because it was probably the most difficult interviewing I've had to do. Because usually if we're going up to athletes or we have to do things like through sports journalism and classes like that, the people are expecting to be interviewed. They're athletes. They've been interviewed before. But when you're just walking up to like random dads in a group and they're like, who are you? Why do you want to talk to me? And like, it can be kind of intimidating, kind of nerve wracking. So it was an interesting experience. It was fun. Again, we didn't get to talk to the Marlies, but it was, it definitely opened up my eyes to sports media a little more. So yeah, it was more of like a resume adder, I would say, something to put on the resume to look nice.
How long did you do it for?
1 day.
1 day. Okay.
It was a 1 day event.
Yeah. You need to update your LinkedIn.
Yeah, wait, what?
You're still doing it today.
No way.
No, wait,
Yes.
really? No, I don't know about that.
Oh,
Are you
maybe
sure?
not.
3 years. I think that's what it says.
Well,
Ooh, yeah.
One
I
day.
think, unless I just completely butchered
no,
that.
I might have messed up on that when I was inputting it. 1 day.
A lot
It
of
was
your
1 day.
A lot of your resumes say the day you started to present.
Yeah, certain things I am technically.
He just hasn't
Yeah.
updated them, right? So
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
still
mean,
going.
yeah, LinkedIn was kind of an afterthought for a while until recently. I figured I should probably, because I've gotten some opportunities through it too. Like it's kind of worked out. So like I'm about to start hosting a Raptors podcast as well through like you see Kyle Cushman, he's been posting like unrestricted like Leafs. I don't know if you've saw that.
Yeah.
So I'm doing like the unrestricted Raptors. So I got that through LinkedIn, which is pretty cool. And he saw I wrote for the Raptors Rapture, and he said he read my article.
That's a very liberal route, considering you did one article like a year ago.
Yeah, and he wrote it. And so he read it. He's like, we've read all your content, and like for the Raptors Rapture, and we think it's great. And like, I mean, I've done one article for them. And like, I don't really. Again, that was more of. I did the Raptors Rapture. Again, I'm a big Raptors fan, and I thought I wanted to be on camera, so I thought having like the writing aspect and on the side would be nice and good experience. And then I realized I don't hate writing, but it's just not what I would like to do. I much prefer the podcast and being able to speak, and I think it's a much more effective way, in my opinion, of kind of expressing your ideas as well, rather than having to write them down. And yeah, so I did the Raptors Rapture for a little bit. Again, the one article, and I'd been writing about the Raptors before that, just hadn't done it for Raptors Rapture. And then I realized it's just like I'd much rather talk about it. I'd much rather focus on editing videos and it was just having to write articles. It doesn't take up a crazy amount of time, but I could be doing better things or things I like more rather than writing. So yeah.
I also think it's writing is more of like the old fashioned kind of traditional way of media.
I think
and this
so.
is more new age. And I think people would want to listen to a podcast other than read an article, right?
Yeah, probably a lot of people. And it just in terms of, even if that's not the case, just my enjoyment of it. Like
exactly.
If I'm not going to enjoy writing for the Raptors, it's going to be more of a burden rather than I'm fine doing a half an hour podcast talking about the Raptors because it's fun. You can kind of think more off the cuff, put a little more of your personality into it as well. Because I remember the first draft I sent to the guys at Raptors Rapture, they're like, you're putting way too much of your personality into this. Like you're trying to have too much fun with it. I'm like, and there's no fun in that. Like, well, I don't really want to write like a textbook cookie cutter article. And I've just never really been writing for me was always something that I felt like I had to do rather than something I wanted to do. Where editing is like, it's totally different.
I feel like writing nowadays needs to have more personality in it.
Yeah.
It needs to be less cookie cutter. Like I think that's more enjoyable. Like I think with The Athletic does that pretty well. Like yes, they're very informative, but like they also bring their personalities into it. They have GIFs. Like they just brought on Tic Tac Tomar on Twitter, who does all the Leafs GIFs.
Oh, okay.
He's just a guy who does GIFs, and through it, he's been able to meet like Steve Dangley plays ESHL with him, and like Mike Stevens and James Myrtle, and he just got brought on to do GIFs for their Leaf report cards.
Yeah.
And like that kind of content, I think, is going to be more effective in the future, and it's targeting more of a younger audience. Which I write for MLS Multiplex, which is the MLS section of it. So we get a lot less content and coverage than you guys do because it's MLS. But like up until recently, like we just brought a new site head on. We'd gone a little while without one, but we were able to put that personality into our stories, and I really enjoyed it. Like it's fun writing. I enjoy writing. And it's interesting to hear the fact that you don't like writing because you don't like the cookie cutter aspect of it. Have you ever considered, like, obviously you wrote some stuff with the Relay Pod, you did the Relay blog with Spirit Live, but have you ever considered like starting a website or something along those lines for the Relay, just writing your own stuff, like
we did
your own content?
I think we stopped paying for it at this point, but we had like a site where we were posting our blogs and we were posting our podcasts up until then. But I don't know. I think I started an MMA podcast, and then that took over. I guess I could have started posting the MMA pods up in there as well. But I don't know, like, do you think people would go to a website like that? Like, I don't know if that's how people access their media.
I think it's more for like a resume or like just to add to your portfolio.
That's definitely true.
Or like for like, say if you are applying for a job, like you can send them this, and they'll definitely look at that, I would say. But in terms of like your audience, I think other things will be better.
I think it's just somewhere to put your content, like the stuff that you create without being limited by somebody else, where you can just be fully creative.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that's kind of what I like. I mean, also about Instagram is because you can kind of get the direct feedback, people commenting, people liking, you get the views. I don't know if you really get that in a website, but there's definitely going to be a point where I'm going to set up a website. And I'm going to be posting all my editing, all my work, everything I do. But yeah, just more focused on the social media aspect of it right now. But yeah, I got a couple other things. Again, got the documentary to post, and then I had to put the short film a little bit on the back burner, and then that'll be coming out hopefully soon as well. So big things coming.
Is the short form like sports related, or is it like something? Okay.
No,
I like that.
Yeah, I play. I'm the main character as well. I put myself in my own movie, which may be a little egotistical, but again, well, first of all, it was during COVID, so I couldn't have that many actors. I only had one other guy, and again, I think it's just a control thing for me. Like I'm writing the script, so I know like how I don't know. Controlling, I guess.
Can you give us a little breakdown as to what it's about?
It's about it's pretty much, so I play a drug dealer, a guy that sells pills that has a few loose screws, and I guess you'd say he has certain forms of, like, he gets agitated easily, and as the short film builds, certain things get on his nerve more and more until he snaps. So I'll just say that, because other than that, it's a short film, so there's not like a crazy amount of content there where you might tell the story right away. But yeah, it should be coming out somewhat soon, I would think. It's just, the documentary took over my life for a bit there, especially in terms of editing.
Yes, and you do a lot of editing. Specifically, you were a part of the Ryerson men's hockey team, I guess, as a video editor.
Social media team, I guess.
Yeah, you're part of their social media team. So, like, what do you do for them? Is it just video editing?
Yeah, so like an email had come out saying that they were looking for video editors and videographers. So I said I'd do both. And then, I mean, I think they had a couple practices. So I was editing a lot of the footage that they were giving me. So they were doing a lot of training in the off season, a lot of practices. So that's kind of the stuff I was compiling. But then they haven't played a season. So there's not really much more footage for them. So I haven't done anything for them in a bit. But I'm hoping once the season gets back going and they're putting more content together, I can edit for them. And I was going to film for them as well. But again, season didn't go on. So it's kind of a crappy situation. But I mean, it was a really good experience. And it was one of the first, that and puck preps, it was one of the first times, like I was editing for myself before that. It was like videos that I was interested. I was on my own deadline. If I didn't release the video, nobody would know. It wouldn't bother anybody. But this is the first time I was on a deadline. Somebody was telling me what to do. I mean, I had kind of a little bit of creative reins with it, not as much as I would on my own. But it was the first time I was like, here's the deadline, pretty much just get it done. So that was kind of nice, having a structure, getting feedback on things like that. But yeah, I'm hoping it gets back going soon because I don't know, they're fun to do. I like editing hockey videos a lot.
What have you learned from not working like for yourself? And like, have you realized that maybe there's like advice that, I don't know, like how much advice they would give you on these videos? Like they probably think you're the expert anyways, but have you like discovered things like as you've gone on? Is it just like time management or?
Yeah, I think I was. I mean, I think I've always been pretty decent with time management. I also think it's just like learning to pull back the reins a little bit and actually having to fit like the structure of what they want to do. Because again, I had all the videos I'd done before. I could go to get as creative as I want. I could put as many effects as I wanted. But for the puck prep specifically, like I guess the Ryerson men's hockey was a little bit more creative, but the puck preps was pretty much just like hockey highlights of prospect players. So it was really cookie cutter, a little bit of transitions, but he didn't really want me putting that much like fizzle on it. So I think being accepting and compromising and being okay with not always having to do exactly what I want to do and taking a bit of the control out of my hands was probably a nice experience. Because again, if somebody doesn't put you in a box once in a while, sometimes you can get a bit wild. So I think having to actually like fit a format and fit guidelines was nice for me, because that's what it's going to be in the future, right? You're not always going to be able to do exactly what you want. You're going to have to fit some sort of box or some sort of guideline. So yeah, probably just having to probably that. Yeah.
So what do you do for puck preps then exactly? Is it just cut highlights for their scouts or for their website?
Well, it was going to be a similar situation with Ryerson men's hockey. Again, both of these are on the back burner now because COVID, no hockey's been happening. So I was supposed to be going to tournaments like in October. There was a few like big prospect tournaments that I was supposed to be going to. So I was supposed to go film the content for them and then come back and edit it. But then all the tournaments got canceled. I mean, I guess there's a tournament in Quebec. I don't know where that scout was going, but yeah, so that was the idea. It was just, again, the kind of the video portion of it, and then also editing the videos for them, prospect videos, highlights, mixtapes of people. And then I was also going to try to start editing their podcast, but I don't know, like COVID just kind of messed up everything in the sports world, and it's definitely affected my ability to edit sports videos because there's none of them going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about like, I guess for the summer now, like what big plans do you have like in terms of your video editing? Because you mentioned documentary, it's done, short film coming out. Do you want to keep doing more video editing, and what do you have like planned? Like what ideas could we see?
Definitely. So I'm hoping I'm doing the Olympics first of all. So that would be kind of like a nice thing to add onto the resume.
Wait, what? Sorry, say it again. You're doing the Olympics?
I don't know for sure, but I mean, I hope so. It's looking.
You're working on the Olympics?
I mean, I don't want to say I for sure am, but
okay.
But I got an email back today saying he wants to get in contact with me, and I'm so interested. So I'm hoping.
Damn. Okay.
Wow. So there's that. I mean, I committed to my sailboat job, and the Olympics is going to be like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks out of that. So I haven't told them that that's going to be happening, but that's going to be more of a game time. Hey, I'm going to have to take 3 weeks off this work, go and do the Olympics. I hope you understand. But yeah, I'm hoping to do another short film. I've just got to find time to do that because it's a lot of work. That's one of the biggest things I realized. It's not easy at all. I have so much respect for people that make movies, and it's such a headache a lot of the time. It's fun too, but it's a lot. So yeah, hopefully another short film, definitely doing a lot of kind of my fun videos on the side. And then it's just going to start reaching out to other people. I want to start editing more videos for other people, and then my main goal is to try to morph the CBC relationship and to start editing documentaries at CBC. And then from that, move on and hopefully do something bigger and different things. But yeah, right now, I think CBC is going to be my little way to sneak into the industry, I think, especially because I have the connections. Again, like I got lucky with Joe and pretty close with Karen, and yeah, CBC is going to be my goal.
So obviously it's not set in stone, but in the event that you do get this position,
yes,
what will you be doing exactly?
I'm going to get like a runner, probably shot listing and running. I'm guessing like that's what I think from what I've talked to before, that's the general thing. So yeah, I think it's just pretty simple. Nothing crazy. I'm guessing it's going to be long hours. I also don't know if they're going to pay me or not. Do you know? Have you talked to anybody else? Is it a paid position, or is it? I'm doing it either way. So I haven't
heard of this position. Did we get it? Was it sent out to all of us, or was it just you?
Have you been in many Joe's classes?
The document, just documentary.
Yeah, if you've been in like a lot of his TV classes, he's very he brought up the idea of the Olympics a lot. So maybe you guys just kind of got unlucky in terms of the teachers, because for us, I thought everybody was applying for the Olympics because I thought everybody knew about it. So it's kind of surprising to me because it was very just known to me. I don't know. Like Karen was talking about a lot. I had a couple of classes with Karen, which probably helped. And I've had a few classes with Joe. So I think I probably just got lucky and I kind of hopped on it right away. So I don't know. I think
That's really cool.
Just lucky.
Yeah, I had a couple classes with Karen. I had both TV lab, like first year and third year.
Oh man,
with her. But I'm not a big TV person, obviously, as I've made very apparent on this podcast.
Mhm.
I'm mostly audio, radio, and podcasting.
Yeah.
So it obviously I see why I'm not involved in the Olympics, because that's not exactly what I want to do. But
it's not even really what I want to do either, to be honest. It's just like
experience. It's great. I mean, you're working on the Olympics, like
and just getting into
amazing.
CBC as well, getting a kind of nuzzling my way in there,
building relationships, getting the experience.
Yeah,
in the summer, that's great.
Yeah, and I mean, I was able to reach out to. Because you know how like Joe at one point in a documentary class was saying like, hey, if you ever want to reach out to anybody in the industry or whatever, just let me know. He quickly said that at the end of some class. So I emailed him right away and he hooked me up with a couple like really good sources. He hooked me up with like one of the main dudes that was editing documentaries at CBC. And he was just super cool. Gave me a lot of tips and even said he'd like bring me in and like bring me to the studio and like show me the ropes and stuff. So I think it's just like you gotta just get out there and just message people. That's been the biggest thing I've realized. Just try and just like shoot for the stars. It sounds very cliche, but
I can attest to that. That's how I got Staff and Graph, the editing position I do with them. Just sent Ian and who was Ian and Rachel. Ian's now no longer with Staff Graph. He left. But that's how I got them. They said, hey, we're looking for editors. Just send a DM. You never know. Like I didn't think I had any shot at getting that position.
That's sick. Yeah, that was the same with puck preps and the men's hockey team. Yeah. Literally, I saw a post somewhere and I just answered the call, duty calls, and I was there.
That's sick. So I guess for people who don't really understand what puck preps is, what does puck preps do exactly? Is it like a place for people to go to scout players, or is it like somewhere that compiles scouting reports? What is it that they do? Yeah,
it's like I think it's something like 24/7. I believe is that the NBA kind of version of it, where I think it's actually subscription based. So you go in and you get access to all the rankings, the databases, articles, podcasts, and just like in-depth reviews and breakdowns of rankings and prospects. That's the main thing. It's all like NCAA prospects, all that kind of situation. I don't think it's any professional sports. It's all just prospects. So, it's again, I mean, I didn't pay for the subscription. It's not something I'm not a big I like watching sports. I'm a big fan of sports, but I'm not going in. I'm not looking at all the prospects, looking at the rankings, who's coming in 2 or 3 years. That's just not the type of, I'm just not the type of sportsman I've always been. So I'm more of I'll edit your videos and I like watching. Like the cool thing about watching or editing sports videos is you get to see sick like sports plays and you get to put them together and you get to make them look nice. So I think it's a pretty cool database. I don't know how much they've grown. Again, I haven't been in contact with them for a little bit now because of COVID and there hasn't been much work to do. But I know Rain. I think does he produce their podcast as well? I wasn't sure if he was on the podcast or he's producing their podcast.
Is that in the system?
Is it called in the system?
Uh-huh.
It might be. I
edit one of Rain's podcasts.
Oh.
I edit in the system. He does it with Pat, Talon, and Kyle Watson.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be that one. I think he was just producing a podcast through Puck Preps, and I'm not sure who was hosting that podcast. And I think he was writing articles for them as well. So it was going to be cool though. Like I wanted to go to
be in the system.
They're both prospect related, so
yeah,
could be that one. You would know though, Connor.
I should know, although they haven't done a podcast in a long time. I do need to message Kyle about that. But yeah, I've started doing that last year. They did like 6 episodes or 7 episodes.
So is that your goal? You want to produce podcasts?
Hopefully.
I love podcasts. That's like
they're the best.
Oh man, especially at my work, I probably consume like 8 or 9 hours of podcasts a day. And even on like an average day, at least 3 or 4 hours a day of podcasts. I think like it's totally overtaken music for me. Like I still listen to music, but my go-to is podcast now all the time. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Again,
future.
it goes back to just the future of, instead of reading articles, being able to digest it in a different way. And I think that for me is a little more entertaining.
Yeah, I'm in a very niche audience in that I'm most involved in soccer, who absolutely nobody in Canada follows, and podcasts, which is still a very new form of media.
Yeah.
So
It's growing rapidly, though.
It's going big.
It is, and they released this. This list is unbelievably stupid because it says we release a podcast a day. We don't. It says our Twitter account has over 1,000 followers. That's MLS Multiplex's actual Twitter account, but we were named like the 7th podcast to listen to for MLS podcasts.
That's wild.
Which didn't
In the
include,
world?
yes.
Damn. Okay.
Which
That's
didn't
impressive.
it is until you realize they say that we do a podcast a day, which doesn't happen.
Okay.
That that they didn't include the allocation disorder, which is the Athletics MLS podcast. Just wasn't on the list. So
okay, so you're 8th. Still pretty good.
A soccer, like a sports podcast every day seems way too excessive anyways. Like who's like,
it's like a radio show though. It's like a radio show you can consume at any time. That's why podcasts are the future, because it isn't.
I think I just listen to so many podcasts that just like I have my kind of schedule lined up. I know when this is coming out, so I can listen to this kind of in blocks rather than if it's coming out every day. Damn, keeping up with that would be. But again, you're right. That's radio, but maybe
it's radio not set to a specific time,
Yep.
and that's what I love about it. You can do it whenever you want.
Definitely.
And it's a lot of fun, and clearly you enjoy it because you have the Relay Pod, which you've been doing with Eric since first year, which has been on Spirit Live, I believe.
Yeah, a little bit. They were kind of messy.
Was that as a radio show and a podcast?
No, it was a podcast, but it was the first year they were doing podcasts, so they didn't know, like they had so much trouble. So I think we did, 10 podcasts that year, and I think they uploaded one of them. So after the first one, we're just like not going back to Spirit Live again. And like the creative practice hours were nice, but if they're not uploading them, it was kind of useless to us. So yeah, we just instead went to Apple Podcasts, which more accessible for people, I would think, but we also had to pay for it. But yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I will tell you what to use afterwards, so you don't have to pay for it.
Thank you. I would love that.
What's the MMA podcast that you're doing?
Yeah, so that's the main one I'm doing right now. It's been a bit because just again, documentary and life it wasn't the focal point of it, but pretty much it's me and my buddy Jonathan, who just, I don't know, we would every time we'd hang out or whatever, we'd drink some beers or whatever, everybody would just look at us because we'd get in just full-fledged like 2-hour-long rants and debates about MMA and who's the most dominant champion of all time and different debates. He's a Conor McGregor fan, I'm a Khabib fan, so that just creates a lot of tension. And so we flowed. We had a good flow. But we also were arguing with each other a lot, which was nice for podcasts, a bit of a debate rather than just like agreeing with each other all the time. And MMA is like my new favorite sport now, pretty much. So I used to watch. So it just became an easy way to talk about it. We always wanted to talk about it. Nobody in my family, like they'll watch the UFC fight if it's on, but I don't have people to talk about UFC to. So that's why I started doing that. And it's been a lot of fun. It was kind of like a similar situation in the summer. I was watching all these movies and I had nobody to talk to movies about. I'm like, I'd watch a movie a day and I had nobody to talk to. So I hooked up a podcast with Eric. Instead of doing the sports, we started doing a movie podcast and we started reviewing movies because I was just like, if I'm going to watch the movies and I want to talk about them, I might as well release them as content. So we did that for a bit until sports came back. And I've just been doing the UFC podcast the most.
Are you doing a podcast on the Masvidal-Usman fight coming up?
That's the plan. I'm sure we will. Now that I'm free, my buddy has a full-time job. He's an electrician, but we usually do it in the evening. So I'm sure we will. I'm so excited for that fight. It's just, man, UFC is the best. I love it. Do you guys watch UFC?
I started getting into it at the beginning of lockdown because they were the only sport that was active at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
I always sort of followed it out of very far distance. Like I McGregor one, I saw that, but that was about it.
Yeah.
But ever since lockdown, I've started following it a little bit closer. Like I'll actually watch fights. But yeah, it's my parents, like especially my mom, don't like the violence and the blood,
It's
which
intense.
is very understandable because it's a
intense.
very violent sport.
Oh,
So I usually come up here and watch it. But
yeah.
like it's more enjoyable than you would think it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like I think because I watch it if like it's every Saturday night, right? So I'll be watching, and usually if I'm upstairs, my parents will watch it too. And it's kind of the same thing where it's so violent. It's like sometimes it's brutal, but I feel like it's tough to look away sometimes because of it. Like it's intriguing because it's just, you know, you watch sports like hockey and you watch sports like basketball. And you're like, okay, maybe if I devoted my life to it and I trained as hard as I could become that. MMA fighters it's just a different breed of human. They're mutants. They're crazy. And you have to be kind of insane to be in that sport. Not everybody gets into it. So I just the respect for those people. Like you hear about people or fighters fighting with a broken nose. And you're like, if somebody even touched your nose when it was broken, you'd be screaming out in pain. Like for an assassin, like an MMA fighter to punch you directly in the nose and you just be like, that's cool. Like, I'm gonna just keep going. I just find that crazy. So I think I just have so much respect for the sport and it's exciting. So.
Yeah,
I agree.
What immediately springs to mind is that video of the guy popping the guy's shoulder back in.
Yeah. I mean,
the trainer, and it like in the caption says he'd already tried, like he'd also tried to do it during the fight himself. So like the guy's trying to pop his own shoulder back in the middle of a fight is just absurd to me.
It was Brandon Royval. That was a disappointing because it was a good fight, and then it ended in the first round because of that, because he dislocated his shoulder, and apparently he was having shoulder issues with like prior to that fight. So I think that probably he had some issues with it. But man, and like I don't know what it's been like, but I don't know why it's like this. But in 2021, a guy gets kicked in the nuts probably every single fight now. I hadn't seen it nearly as much in 2020, but eye pokes, kick to the nuts, the disqualification. I don't know if you saw like Aljamain Sterling, Peter Young, the guy got kneed to the head. Disqualifications are like, I don't know what the stats are, but I feel like they're through the roof this year, which is kind of crappy. But yeah, I just love MMA.
Unfortunately, we can't dive into that because what we're going to try to do, as long as you're okay with this, is every podcast we're just going to dive into like one sport for a little bit after we've done the interview portion, which today we'll do basketball because Aiden and I are both a bit more have a bit more knowledge on that than UFC. Although we can mention the Jake Paul fight if you want to and rant about that.
I'm good for that.
All right, we'll do both of those. I want to wrap up, though, quickly with the sports you played, because you mentioned a lot earlier. Like you played hockey, you played volleyball. You were also a rugby player, according to either somebody's post that tagged you in it or one of your Instagram posts, as well as a lacrosse player. So obviously you suit the stereotypical hockey player who also plays lacrosse. But how did you get into lacrosse?
Lacrosse was I wasn't very good at it. I'll say that first and foremost. It was only the 1 year. It was only RH King the 1 year. But my friends had played like every year, right? And our team was so bad. So it was pretty much like you show up and you make it. So I know I didn't want to be on offense because I hate getting slashed. So I didn't want to be getting hit with it. But as a long pole, you can hit anybody. So that was kind of what I love to do, more the defensive end. So that's kind of how I got into lacrosse. I mean, my brother played it, and lacrosse had always kind of been a thing, and I was always intrigued me, but it was mostly just because my friends did it, and it was fun. You'd miss school, and we'd go and play music and just have fun or whatever. So that was more of like, and we'd get crushed every game. Like we were so bad, and our goalie had never played before, so it was a mess. And we were playing like Birchmount was so good. We played in the first game, and all of their players play reps. So we just got absolutely manhandled. But yeah, so I mean, rugby is a sport that and volleyball and those other ones are I'm more accustomed to, especially rugby. I was probably playing rugby like flag. It starts off at flag, so I was probably playing flag rugby. I don't know, when I was like 5 or 6, I think, like really young.
Wow.
And it's flag, right? So there's no tackling or anything like that. It's just kind of fun running around. And then I guess when you're in like 9 or 10, it transitions to tackling, which is like it's a different animal, especially at the beginning. And I was kind of a smaller guy, but I continued playing all the way through high school, and then kind of stopped in high school, but played grade 9 rugby. And then the picture you saw was we didn't have a team for a few years in high school, and then they brought it back in grade 12. So I joined that team. And again, I mean, we weren't known for the athletics. We were, except for hockey, we were a good hockey team for the tier we were in. Yeah, so rugby was kind of there my entire life, playing, Bomby Beach.
I recognize the name.
It's like right by Woodbine and like Woodbine Beach and like Ashbridges Bay and that. So played rugby there pretty much my entire life. And that was kind of a similar situation where my group of friends always played rugby. My friend's dad was like Team Canada. He played Team Canada back in the day. So he kind of just funneled us in. He was like, I don't know, trying to make Canada the next hub for rugby. So he was telling everybody joined it. So played it my entire life pretty much. And then, yeah, it just didn't become as fun up until high school. And then when I went to high school, that's when I started having a lot more fun with it, especially because people were worse. So you get have a little more fun out there, play around. And also, yeah, it just wasn't as serious. Bomby Beach, like, I don't know, man. It's just rugby's I think it's because it's such an aggressive sport, and there's a lot of there's consequences to it if you don't do it well. And there's a lot of injuries. I mean, I was injured probably every single game of rugby, just never. I've never had a really serious injury. But I can't remember a rugby game where I didn't feel like I should be off the field right now. Like something is hurting, something, my leg just, it's an aggressive sport. So it's going to practices, everything about it. It's fun at sometimes, but I don't know. It can just be coming back from school and knowing that you have to go to like a hot rugby field for 3 hours and get like tackled and manhandled. Sometimes wasn't the thing I always wanted to do, where Arch King was a lot more fun. So yeah. That was I'd always been part of rugby, but yeah, not as much lacrosse. That was kind of like a try it out. Did it the 1 year in grade 11, and I'm not doing that again. That was and we were just so bad. It was disheartening.
Okay, 3 questions. 1, what was the worst score you lost by playing lacrosse? 2, did you ever play at Cherry Beach?
Yep.
That field. And 3, what position did you play? And which type of rugby was it?
Yeah, so it was, I guess it was union rugby. What's the 2 styles?
Okay.
Union and league and union. Which one's the good one? Is it union's the good one?
Rugby league's the one where you pause, stand up, put it between your legs.
That's unfair. I hate
that's
that
league.
Sport. I think
union is just nonstop.
Yeah, I always mix them up. So yeah, I think it was, if that's what it was, right, it was union. I remember I didn't even know there was a different type of rugby until I saw, I guess it would have been the Toronto Wolfpack. And I was like, this just makes at least for me, it makes the play significantly worse. Like I don't get why they play that style of rugby, but they do. So yeah, it was that type of rugby. What was the other question you said?
Worst lacrosse score.
Worst
lost by.
And Cherry Beach. Yes, we did play at Cherry Beach. Our last game was at Cherry Beach, and that might have been I think that was probably the worst score. It was probably like 20-0 or something like that.
Okay. That's not
or maybe 21, because I think at the beginning, we might have scored the first goal, and we're like, holy, like, this never happened. We never scored. And then it went just so downhill. And it was so intimidating because Cherry Beach, there was so many other, like there was prep schools there and private schools that were playing that were just so good. And we were just so bad. Like you can tell when the entire team has lacrosse helmets and we're all in like hockey helmets and stuff like that. You can tell there's a difference in skill level.
Yeah.
And I was definitely a hockey helmet guy.
Did you play a lot of hockey growing up?
Yeah, it was it was like, yeah, it was kind of like, I want to say it's my life, but I mean, a lot of things, a lot of my friends, I don't know, just going out with people, meeting things, and just even, I don't know, because like I said, I started playing when I was like 3, and then started playing in a league when I was 4, and then I didn't stop till, I don't know, COVID. Like COVID kind of ruined everything. Yeah. So I was playing up until then, and I never really wanted to stop, but yeah, hockey is my favorite sport to play by far. I'd say UFC at this point is my favorite sport to watch. I'm definitely not my favorite to do. I'm not getting in there. But
have you ever tried to wrestle or box or anything?
Yeah, like I mean, I'll fight my friends. You know what I mean? Like we'll wrestle, and I love that stuff. Like every time.
Yeah.
Like, that's
a joke question.
But, yeah. But I actually think I'm gonna start going to a kickboxing gym. It's just again, COVID's again. I really started my love, kind of like Connor said. My love for MMA came during the lockdown for the most part, like really enhanced it. And that's when I started wanting to do, I did Taekwondo for like, I don't know, 3 years when I was a kid, got my white belt or whatever, got my yellow belt, and then I was out of there. But yeah, no, hockey was my life for a lot of it. Just so fun. And yeah, I knew so many people through it all. Like I went to a very hockey central school. It was all white kids at my school and they all played hockey. So it was just all we did. Everybody I knew played hockey, and yeah, so hockey my entire life pretty much. Yeah, I love it.
What was the highest level you got to?
Just single A.
Single A?
But I didn't want, like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I could have gone higher. Again, it was kind of a similar situation for rugby where when it gets to a certain point, it's just not as fun for me. Like I like to have again, a lot of my main friends, because I left to go to single A. I left my friends that were playing in select and stuff like that. So I was going to a team where I wasn't really friends with anybody, and the coaches were just brutal. Like, I had never had coaches swearing at me and yelling at me and going crazy. Practices were Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and then we had power skating like Sunday at 5 p.m. So it was just like, I feel like I kind of could have gone higher, but I don't know. Sucked the fun out of it for me. So going down was just way better. Again, just friends. Friends was the most thing. That was the most important thing for me when playing hockey.
What was the worst injury you ever got playing sports?
Yeah. So I didn't really have any major injuries until I was snowboarding actually. And
that's never good.
Yeah. And I was in the terrain park. It was whatever. It was doing fine. And then I hopped on a rail. And then right when I was hopping off, somebody, like some little kid, I don't know what this dude was doing, flew right in front of it, like diagonal. I'm like, where are you going? Like he was going across it. So I'm like, I'm about to run into this guy. So I kind of fall off, and it was a rail where you'd hop off, and then it was a decent amount of drop. So there's like if you're not controlled, you can kind of hurt yourself falling. So I was trying to brace myself by putting my hands down, and then all the weight went down on like my arms and then my back and my shoulder, and just like tore like everything in my back. So I like blacked out for a second, and then it was one of those ones where if I wasn't moving, I was fine. But then a slight movement and like vision would go black, and I would just like seize up in pain.
Oh no.
So I was doing, man, I was like a science experiment at that point. I was going chiropractor. I was going to like deep seismotherapy. I was going to acupuncture. I was doing like everything I could, because I was also playing on the King hockey team. So I tried to play, but I blacked out on the ice once because I was in so much pain. So I hopped off. That was probably the worst. It was just, again, it didn't hurt all the time, but when it hurt, oh my gosh. And it lingered. So I don't know. I think it's gone now. I haven't had a back injury in a while, but had to strengthen my back and had to do more stretches for it. Apparently, interesting enough, apparently because my chest was so tight, because I guess I was benching too much, not stretching or whatever. It was like pulling on my back. So it made my back super tight. And then when I got the injury, it was in like a vulnerable state. That's what she said. So I don't know, but that was probably the worst one. And that like kept me out of sports for a while. So that was just brutal.
Any concussions?
Yeah. No, well, I don't think so. Like, no,
I don't think so. Yeah.
Like no diagnosed, but I mean, like I'm reading a book on, do you ever read The League of Denial? It's like a book by a couple of guys at ESPN about pretty much just NFL's denial of concussions. And I mean, the way they're describing concussions, where even just like the slightest bit of like fuzziness or dizziness, I played rugby. There's definitely times where I remember one time I was tackling this big dude and I didn't really know how to get at him. So I kind of just like grabbed his hips and pulled him, but I pulled him like onto me. So his butt went right on my face and landed on my head, and he was a big dude. So I remember having to leave the field then and having a little bit of maybe like a quick headache, but never. Yeah, and probably a couple times when I was snowboarding too and I fell. So again, like never a major one, like never one where the next day I woke up with a headache or anything like that. So never like a lingering one. But if they're describing it by you get kind of like a little hit and you're a little fuzzy, then yeah, I probably done a couple in my time.
I think you like see stars if you've had one.
Yeah, and it's never like where I've blacked out or anything like that, but there's definitely like that.
Yeah.
Like, you bonk heads with people too. Like I guarantee when you were a kid, you bonk heads with another kid. I guarantee that's a concussion. Like the way they're describing it, like I'm sure just the rattling of the brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like sports you wouldn't expect. Sorry, what did you say?
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, sports you wouldn't expect, like soccer is like prevalent with concussion, just
Oh
like
yeah.
heading of the ball. And apparently, I learned this the other day, like ski-doos, like water skiing or like ski-doos, like like they're like constantly going really fast and bumping on the waves. Apparently, that rattle in their brain causes a lot of concussions as well. So I don't know, concussions are sneaking up out of anywhere, I guess.
And as my dad will tell you, blisters on the thumbs when you don't wear gloves.
I've only been on one once. So.
I don't know how many times my dad has been on one, but he was on one and got blisters on both thumbs, like right in here.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think he had a fun time with that. Actually, speaking of fingers, I once broke my dad's finger playing baseball because I hit a line drive at him when he was pitching, and it like hit right at the end of his middle finger. Broke it. I think he had to go to Sunnybrook because we live right by Sunnybrook. Get like his nail punctured because it was like all swollen. Yeah, it was bad. It was
One time my
dad
pitched to me. I didn't have anything to do with this, but one time my dad's finger got flattened because we were building a dock.
Oh.
We were building a dock at our cottage, and it was the base was just heavy rock, so it was like passing rocks back and forth just in a line. And my mom threw him a rock, didn't notice it, squished his finger, and like pretty much flattened it. Or not flattened it, but it definitely did its damage. And you have to do like finger exercises for years.
Ooh, yeah, my grandpa got his finger stuck in a rotary belt in a car, and it like tore the end of it off, sort of thing. So he was like one of the toughest human beings I know. But he walked to the hospital, and as he was crossing the street to get to the hospital, he passed out in the middle of the street because his finger's hanging off. Obvious.
Oh my gosh.
So he soils himself because he has absolutely no bodily control at that point. Damn. But he continues on to the hospital. They sew his finger, like he forces them to sew his finger back on. Somehow he keeps it. So he still has the end of that finger. Wow. It's nuts. My grandpa is insane. He once dropped a screwdriver in his eye, and he had to get stitches on his eyeball.
Wait, what?
Are you like looking at it like that?
I don't know. He did that.
He dropped it? He dropped the screwdriver in his eye.
I have no idea. That's one of the stories he tells. I played hockey against Scotty Bowman's brother in Montreal when he was growing up. He's had an insane life. Yeah.
My grandpa had a weird injury once too. One I never heard about. You know how like the sandwiches, when you get like a clubhouse sandwich, it'll have that toothpick?
Oh no! Don't say he fit.
Yes. So my grandpa's he's from England, and I guess they don't put toothpicks in their sandwiches. So first of all, did you not look at the sandwich before you ate it? But he bit into it, went right through his tongue, and yeah.
I thought you were gonna say roof of the mouth. That's
no.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, but yeah.
I mean, it probably did some damage there too, because he bit down. So definitely like probably punctured it. I don't know if I went through.
How strong did he bite down?
Well, again, you're also like, you're not thinking about anything, right? So you're just going, and he's just, I don't know.
Oh, does he at least have a piercing now?
I don't know. I've actually never, I'm guessing your tongue grows back. I think your tongue grows back really quick. So I think it wasn't that long. But yeah, that's an injury I'd never heard about.
For good reason, because I don't think many people do that.
Oh,
it would have
never heard that one before. Yeah.
Would have been agony.
Damn.
But also the reason why, like, don't they usually put the toothpick in the clubhouse sandwich because there's two stacked on top of each other? Isn't that the idea?
I thought it was there to hold it together, so it doesn't fall apart.
I think it's cut in half, right, or something.
Yeah, but isn't it cut in half and then stacked on top of each other?
Oh,
you know
yeah.
What I mean?
Oh, well, wait, was it like an actual clubhouse sandwich, or was it like a little mini slider?
I mean, this was before I was conscious and alive on this planet, so I didn't really break down the whole sandwich details, but I just remember clubhouse sandwich and then toothpick through the mouth.
Yeah, wow. they are stacked on top of each other.
It's interesting. So did his eye get messed up from that screw?
It was a screwdriver, and I don't think so. Like, he's had cataracts just with age, but I don't think so.
I know somebody that got, I don't really know the exact story of what happened, but I think he was sewing and got the pin in his eye. And so I think he's actually getting a decent amount of his vision back, but just crazy stuff. Ugh. Pin in the eye. I had laser eye surgery because I had this issue with my eyes
Obviously it doesn't help, but it does help me from not going blind, because
That's good.
what happens as you get older is the ducts in your eye that drain the fluid, they start to close as you, like, when you get really old. Normally they only see it in like 80-year-olds. I'm 19 and have it, or I was 19 and had it. So I had laser eye surgery where they drilled a couple holes in the eye and like did it really quickly. But anything to do with the eyes, just no. Just
Like,
no.
So from an operation like that, do you wake up and do you feel anything, or is it just?
I was awake. It took literally 15 seconds. Like, I just put my head on a little platform thing. They say, okay, open your eye. They put something in your eye to keep it open. Zap, like, dude, it's like that, and it's done. It's just drilling a tiny little hole, and then do it both eyes, and I'm done. But I had to wait a while, which was the annoying part. It was like 2 hours to wait.
That must have cost you a lot too, right? Those are expensive.
No, nothing.
No, really?
Because I think it might have cost a little bit of money, but like obviously I'm on my dad's insurance.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah,
he works. But like this is a sort of operation where it's a necessity, because otherwise I could go blind. Like it was 95% blocked or something, or like 90% blocked. So
is that just like crappy luck? Is there anything that?
Oh yeah, dude. I am the least lucky human being when it comes to health on the face of the planet. I won't even get into it. But like when I was born, I had trigger thumbs, so that was as far up as my thumb would go.
Wow.
So I had to have an operation so I could do this now.
Wow. Thumbs up, buddy. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Thumbs up. So I remember we've moved since then, but I remember the day before the operation, my parents were like, "Come give us a thumbs up before you go to bed." And like I'd give them a thumbs up like this or whatever, obviously not realizing, which, by the way, if you ever have kids and your kids ever need an operation, what they'll do, because they likely won't want to leave you, is they'll say, "Do you want to go for a ride in this car?" And it's like a toy car, the little things. They'll walk you around the room once, like the waiting room. They'll say, "Okay, say goodbye to your parents," and then wheel you right through the doors.
Yeah, tricky, eh?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, obviously you can tell that was traumatic. Also, never get the gas. If you're getting put out, get the needle, because the gas feels like you're being choked to death.
The gas?
I've gotten gas from wisdom teeth, I think.
This gas, they put it over your entire face, like that. It's not just in the nose sort of thing. It feels like you're being. I hated it. I did it once, and I'll never do it again.
Did you guys do the COVID test?
No,
not yet. I haven't done it.
I got tested. I've been tested once, and man, it's not fun. I get it's not like, again, it doesn't last very long. It's probably 5 or 10 seconds, but those are 5 or 10 seconds you want over. At least for me, she was digging back there, just hammering it, like back and forth. And then my eyes were so like bloodshot red after I came out. It looked like I just smoked a bunch of weed. Like it was like, it's because it pegged, I don't know, because I guess she went up the right nose. So it was just my right eye. My left eye was fine. And somehow she hit something back there where I could barely even open my eye after. It was crazy. So hopefully I don't have to do that again.
When did you have the test?
Like a month ago.
Were you like feeling symptoms and stuff, or?
Yeah, little. Just wanted to kind of make sure everything's good.
Yeah.
My dad had it done at a place near our house, and they didn't even go deep. They like just did barely inside the nose sort of thing.
I think there's like 2 ways to do it. I think you can either go like up one nostril, like fully, like all the way up, or you can do both, or you can do both nostrils and like not go like fully up.
Okay, so note to self: get both nostrils. In other words,
I don't know if you have a choice.
Though. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you have a choice.
Like she didn't. There was no consent in that part. She went right up, and I don't know. It's, again, it didn't last that long, but when she said 5 or 10 seconds, I'm like, please make it 5, because this is brutal. It's worth it though.
That sounds tough.
I'm hoping I get the vaccine before I get tested.
I think I was supposed to get it. But the appointments, I think because they said I guess I'm in a hotspot zone for some reason.
Okay.
And like, so they were open for 18 plus. And then when I went to go book the appointments, I think people jumped on that. And I also think they didn't have.
So what they did, instead of starting immediately 18 plus, is they started at like 50 plus, and now they're down at like 30 plus sort of thing. So they're just going so that it isn't just a swamp of people.
Yeah. My friends got I got a couple friends that got vaccinated that were able to get in there. So I think it was only like a week window where 18-year-olds could come in. And then right after that, they said, we don't have, like, I guess too many people came in. I don't know. They underestimated the amount of supplies they had. So I tried booking an appointment and I couldn't get it anymore. So kind of pissed, but I just want it to get it over with.
Yeah. That'd be really nice.
Parents don't have to worry as much.
Yeah. I think I'm supposed to get it phase 2 just because of my health stuff, but like there's no information coming out. Like ever.
Man, it's a mess. I don't even think they really know. Like that's the thing. It's like it's complicated for us or it's confusing for us, but I'm sure it's just as confusing for the people up top as well. Nobody knows what's going on. Yeah. That's what makes it so much more frustrating, like just so much of a headache. I hope next year's in person.
I think what will happen in the fall is we'll be labs in person, lectures online.
That's what Joe. That's what Joe pretty much said. And then hopefully the next semester, fully good to go.
Yeah.
I think he's being a little overly optimistic with that because I think they'll want to take another winter to make sure that this doesn't spike in the winter.
Yeah.
But maybe like obviously you mentioned he's been very optimistic in the past, so who knows? I'm not overly optimistic when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
But it looks like vaccines are working really well. It looks like even though numbers are spiking, like it looks like it's okay, I guess.
I don't know. This is the worst it gets, I think. Like I'm in a stay-at-home order right now. Like I can't really leave my house.
Yeah, entire provinces.
Yeah, exactly. I feel because like
it's just
this time, no, it's not just it's everyone. But what was I gonna say? This time last year, like we were all like, okay, in a year from now, like it's gonna be done. It's gonna be over with. And now like we're in the exact same spot a year later. So like
even when things were ramping up, like like you said, I had no clue what was going on. Like I went to Brock for St. Patty's Day. Like it was ridiculous. Like I think Ryerson had closed that weekend and I was in Brock partying. It was ridiculous, right? Just oblivious to anything that was going on and didn't really care at the point. It was still in the kind of the mindset where it's like, oh, I'm not going to miss out on this just because of the disease or whatever. And then literally right when we came back, we're like, probably shouldn't have just done that. But hey, at least we survived.
Yes, that is a positive. I remember having a conversation with Daniel Janikis after our esports class, like just asking that. I think it was the Friday or something or Thursday. It's like, do you think we'll come back next week? I was like, no, I think we're as good as done. Like, I think at that point U of T had shut down, like a bunch of schools had already said, no, we're in the heart of downtown. We're the last Toronto school to do it. Like I love Ryerson. I think it's a good school. They were very behind the ball on that one.
If there was one school in the country that needed to close down, it was Ryerson. Like the heart of downtown. It's like a heart of disease. Like that's where all the dirt in the city is, and the amount of people. And again, like Toronto's been hit hardest by COVID. So I didn't know. I was very surprised they weren't shutting down. I was very surprised.
Which is why I think we'll be back late because we are in the heart of the biggest city in Canada. Like
And at the beginning, I was kind of excited. I'm like, ooh, school's off. Maybe this lasts for like a month, whatever. Get to chill, do our 8 a.m. classes in our bed. And then, next thing you know, here we are. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Survived a year of it. That's crazy. Or a year and a half.
I don't know about you guys. I've enjoyed the last year. Like, it's weird. I'm a hermit as it is. But, like, I've enjoyed not having to go downtown. Like, I've found this year has been one of the easiest years mentally for me in a very, very long time.
I think it's been the worst for me, but only at certain points. Like for me, it's come in waves. Like at the beginning, it was great. Summer wasn't too bad. I was still able to meet with people in the backyards. I was working every day, so I was getting out of the house. So that was all cool. Then you get back into the semester, a little bit of, whatever, doing work, things to keep you busy. But then once winter hit, that's when things hit the rails, and that's when it was the toughest. But I know what you mean. Like I remember talking to people in September and being like, it really hasn't been that bad for me. I've still got to see people in the summer. Again, it kind of gives you a nice excuse not to go out sometimes. Definitely save my money not going like bars and stuff and spending more money on alcohol in the summer. So I think overall now I'm definitely over this whole situation, but not that I don't think it's important, like anti-lockdown or anything like that. Just mentally, I'm a bit over it. Excited for the summer though. Hopefully that'll make things better. Just the winter was just disheartening, I'd say.
I think the winter was okay for me just because like the cold weather, like I wasn't really going to be going outside much, but also winter pond hockey. I could go out and play pond hockey. So that was nice. A good excuse to get out of the house. Right now, I think is like the worst like possible time for me though, just because school is like basically done. I want to get out of my house and see my friends and relax and have fun with them. But it's like what, 5 more weeks of lockdown now. So
Yeah, that's fair. I was playing pond hockey like every day, like twice a day. So that was good. I think it was just, I think maybe just the unknowing made me a little more anxious that it needed to be. Cause I didn't still like, even during the lockdown and all of last year, I knew I liked editing, but I didn't know it was what I wanted to do. I was still kind of somewhat hanging on to the whole being in the camera, like going to TSN and being that kind of news anchor role type of thing. And I think that created a lot of stress for me as well, not knowing which one I want to do. And then once I just stuck to one idea, that changed everything for me. So maybe it was less the pandemic and just me messing with my own self.
could be.
I don't know. Like, I think I'm in a mass. I'm very big minority in terms of not hating the lockdown, just because, again, as I said, I'm a hermit. I prefer to be at home than out.
Yeah.
So it's been a weird feeling. Like, I think a lot of people just assume everybody's hated the pandemic, but like some people have actually enjoyed it. Like, haven't had it be as difficult as others. And I think what people need to keep in mind is that it's going to be a big, I guess, shock going back to seeing everybody constantly. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to talk to people not in like in person.
Yeah, I've heard stories on podcasts of people talking about their first interactions back with a group of people, and it's just like they don't even know how to communicate.
Yeah, and what are we going to talk about? All we've talked about for the last year is the pandemic.
I mean, we're talking right now. We've been talking for.
I feel like also like, okay, I don't know if we would be doing this podcast if it wasn't for the lockdown, like talking to everyone in sport media, right? Yeah. Or like Dana, probably with your video editing, would you be editing? Exactly. So I feel like the pandemic has just allowed us to like work on ourselves a lot and like increase our portfolio as sport media people. So there has been positives. It's not all negatives, and it might be beneficial. You know, even with our production class being remote this year, for sure. You know, that's a positive, I think. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Pull my headphones in.
Well, let's hope we get out of this in another month and a half.
I was telling you about like my dreams earlier and how vivid dreams I have. Almost all my dreams are with large group of people. Like ever since the pandemic happened, it's all like some of them are parties, but it's just always like people and people and people. It's crazy. I just seeping into my dreams here. But I'm just at this point, again, I think summer will help things, especially if I can get back to my job down to the sailboat club. That's like 8 hours out of the day. I can go and do my own thing, listen to podcasts, which helps. So
yeah.
How did we get here?
It's been a journey. I don't even know. Want to bring up one more thing in terms of the interview because we forgot to mention it. Then we'll talk some Raptors because I want to get your thoughts on them. Yep. But you haven't fully given up on hosting, because you were involved in the NWHL desk, which you hosted a game with Kyle Cushman, Cole Stenwick, and Thomas West. So how did that come about? And what did you find the reception was to your appearance on the NWHL desk?
Yeah, I mean, so I'd done it a few times on air, but the first couple of times I was doing video editing for them because Drew just reached out to me and said, hey, would you be interested in it? So I said, yeah. In terms of feedback, I mean, I don't know. Like you kind of do the wrap ups and people say you did good or not, but like they don't really give you, I guess, like criticism of how you've done. But in terms of, I don't know, I like being on air. I have fun being on air, especially in circumstances like that where you're giving your own opinion and you're not just like reading highlights. And again, it's the cookie cutter textbook kind of thing where you can give your own opinions, be a little more fun with it. Also, like the consequences of messing up during the NWHL is really nothing. It's kind of a platform where you can have fun, do your own thing and not worrying about screwing up and stuff like that. And I don't know if I'll ever like fully take out the idea of being on air because it's something I would love to be on air, be able to incorporate that somehow. It's just not going to be the traditional route of going to TSN and being on a desk. I could see I don't know whether it's YouTube or like just other media platforms that are a little more creative and a little less cookie cutter. That's just always my biggest thing. That's how I get. So that's why why I do podcasts. I want to keep up being able to speak and communicating, and especially in the pandemic, you're not talking to that many people. So speaking is pretty important. But yeah, being on air is fun. And especially when in a platform like that, where you can kind of give your own opinions without any consequences.
Yeah, that was
unless you say something crazy, and then I mean, yeah. But, yeah.
Like that whole podcast thing. That's a big reason why we've been doing these interviews, is to just tell people stories, because I think it's important for everyone to know who sport media is and who the future is. But also, like, we just get to talk to you guys,
Definitely,
like, and girls, obviously, which as an introverted person, I didn't normally do when I was at school. I sort of kept to myself. But in terms of just being open and like having an actual conversation about someone, I've loved this. I think I'd do this forever if I could.
and you get so much better at it.
Like, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably, if you look back at your first one, I remember the first podcast I ever did with Eric. Yeah, we probably it got to the point where we never edited any of our podcasts. Really, we just went with it, and that's what it was. But at the beginning, there would be points we'd be looking at each other. Somebody would stumble, and then you'd look at each other, and there wasn't kind of like the groove and the rhythm you have once you've been doing it for a long time. So yeah, just the more you do, the more you talk. Again, especially during the lockdown where you're not talking to that many people, I think it's just beneficial. I think it's just like even if you don't use your on-air skills and like your career. I mean, you wouldn't, that's not my point. Even if you don't want to do on air and you don't want to be on television, you can still use the skills from your podcast, from being able to speak in your work. Like being able to talk and communicate is, if not the most important thing, it's one of the most important things in your career, and how to communicate. And I don't know, I think it also makes you more confident in what you want to say because you're already used to expressing what you want to say.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And I want to talk to you boys about something afterwards, not recording. But let's wrap up this conversation about you, because we have talked about just everything and everywhere. We've been all over the place for the last 2 hours. But I want to get...
We're approaching 7 o'clock.
Yeah, approaching 7 o'clock, which I got to take off. I got an interview to do tonight, which I'll tell you boys afterwards about. But Raptors, should they tank? Is probably the biggest question that is surrounding them right now. So Dana Ryan, should the Toronto Raptors tank the rest of the season?
I've gone back and forth on this many times, and my final decision is no, I don't think they should tank. Just because if we're looking at the history and the success of the Raptors, I think their organization and the culture of winning, that I don't know if losing and tanking would benefit them right now. Obviously, you're going to get a high draft pick, but the way they've been drafting in general and the way they're able to pick players out of the draft in the later rounds, I don't know if they need a super high pick. It's a great draft, and I think obviously it's beneficial. But with the players they have now, especially new players that are coming on the team, I think making a push for the playoffs, the skills you can learn from that, and then even making the playoffs, even getting in the playoff tournament, I think it's just there's a lot they can experience from it, and I think they should be more focusing on the core they have right now because they're young, and obviously things are different from last year. But if you look at the biggest differences, is Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka not having that strong center position, which is going to take time to develop, and that's something they need to focus on and something they can look for next year. But I think they have to develop the players they have right now because although it's been a crappy season, I mean, there's been great players like a guy like Malachi Flynn has been astounding this season. I mean, there might not have been that many expectations for him, especially in the starting role he's been doing lately. He's been great. So he's a guy that can come off the bench after Fred. Just picked up Ken Birch, players like that. Chris Boucher, I mean, he's a player that who knows what his potential is going to be. Last year, I kind of feel bad because me and my brother would trash Chris Boucher all the time. I was not sold him. I was not a Chris Boucher fan. I didn't think he was a fit. I was just never a fan of him until, I mean, how can you not be a fan of him now, right? Yeah. So I just think tanking is, first of all, not the culture of the Raptors, but I also think we're a better team than – this is a weird season, right? They're not playing in Toronto. There's a lot of circumstances. The schedule, they're playing so many games and so many nights, a lot of new faces. They've pretty much reworked the entire roster this year. So I think it does take a season of up and downs. We've had really good games against teams like Brooklyn. We've beat really good teams in this in the league. So it's not like we don't have the skill and we don't have the ability. I just wouldn't want to, I don't know. I just think jumping the gun too far and tanking this season I don't know if it'd be as beneficial. Again, there's always the reason I go back and forth is because, yeah, you could get that nice prospect next year. But I just think they need to focus more on the team they have this year and getting the experience in the playoffs. Because a guy like Malachi Flynn, if he's able to get good minutes in the playoffs and develop his skills, I think that's way more important.
Yeah,
might be controversial.
Do you think
I thought they should have tanked? So I've been going back and forth on it.
Do you think Kem Birch is the Toronto Raptors' answer at center?
No. I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, I think it's early. I mean, again, last year, I didn't think Chris Boucher was a guy that was going to be able to work his way as effectively in the lineup. So I think it's early, and he's been great so far. So I think it's a player that definitely right now there's a lot of potential, and it gives us hope for sure. I mean, putting all our balls into one bin, is that the
eggs in one basket?
Eggs in one basket. Yeah, I think he definitely I wouldn't take him out of the equation, but it's so early. We haven't seen him we haven't seen him in the playoffs yet, so we don't know what he can do. So yeah, it's early. Not to say he can't be, but I wouldn't rely on it. Is what I'll say about that.
Do you think we would win a playoff round if we made the playoffs this year?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because although, again, it's been a crappy season for the Raptors, we're not your typical crappy team, right? It's just there's been a lot of up and down. So I think we could get moments of maybe sparking some magic, and especially because we have so much playoff experience, especially if players like Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry and Fred can stay healthy. We've just been riddled with injuries this season. So yeah, I think if we have our full core together, I don't think we're going to make a big run, but I definitely think we can make a splash or maybe ruin somebody's chances of making it farther into the playoffs. I don't think, again, I'm not delusional and think we have any chance of winning the championship this year, but I just think we're too good of a team to be doing as bad as we are now. And I think a lot of the circumstances surrounding the COVID season have made it really tough for the Raptors. And it's been a difficult season, but who knows? And I like the addition of Gary Trent Jr. It's tough to replace a guy like Norman Powell, who's been so good for us, especially this season. But I mean, he's had moments of greatness. So if you continue that, and if we can just figure out our defense this year, it's just been such an up and down season that playoff seems like a time where they can kind of have a reset and hopefully pull it together. If we can even make it there, right? Who knows?
That's my next question. Do you think they can make it into the playoff tournament, or do you think Chicago are too good a team and too far ahead for the Raptors to catch them?
It's going to be tough, especially, again, the up and down. My biggest thing is consistency. Consistency is like if you looked at the past few seasons, it was rare for the Raptors to ever lose 2 games in a row. Like that was a rare sight. So I think if we can maybe have a nice run at the end here and string some games together, we have the opportunity to. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I think we're a better team than Chicago is. And even if they picked up players like Vucevic and they have Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen, they have some really good players. I just think as a base, the Raptors are built to win every year, whether it's even if they don't have the players that they had before, like the high skill level. I just think, again, what the Raptors are known for is their culture. They're a winning culture, and somehow they always bring it together. And you have leadership like Kyle Lowry and now Fred VanVleet. Like you can't, a guy like Kyle Lowry, any team in the league wants him because the experience, the stability he has. You know what you're going to get from him. He's a dog. He's having another great season. So again, injuries. We need everybody to come back healthy. We need to string some consistent games together, and we just got to show up because we just haven't been doing it. But again, I think the injuries might have helped a little bit, giving more of a role to Malachi Flynn, guys like Kem Birch when he's coming new to our team. So I think the injuries have their benefits, but if we're going into the playoffs without Kyle Lowry, without Fred VanVleet, and without Siakam, we're screwed. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the Raptors had a good trade deadline, and what grade would you give the trade deadline? I guess I could run through the moves they made.
No.
They traded Terrence Davis for a second, traded Matt Thomas for a second. They traded Norman Powell for George Hill and Gary Trent Jr. And I think that's it.
Yeah, I think when I initially saw the trade, especially because obviously the main one you're looking at is Norman Powell and Gary Trent Jr. and then Rodney Hood. I wasn't.
Yeah, did I say George Hill? I meant Rodney Hood.
Yeah.
Oh, did you say George Hill?
Yeah, I meant Rodney Hood.
I didn't even notice. Yeah, I don't know. I think Terrence Davis was a kind of a bit disappointing because he was a guy I had really high hopes for. Obviously, a bit of a sketchy character, and there's a little bit of surrounding that whole situation. So I think that might have maybe played a part into it. And I think it clearly affected his season because he wasn't getting nearly the amount of minutes he was getting. He wasn't as big of a role in the Raptors that he was going to be. So, okay, if they were going to play him, if they were going to integrate him into the lineup, then I would say, hey, why trade him away? But they weren't using him. He wasn't really a factor in the lineup day in and day out. So that's a trade that it wasn't, you get some depth and maybe sometimes a second round pick. Again, with the scouting and the drafting of the Raptors, it would be no surprise that they could pull something out of that. Matt Thomas, that one kind of stung for me just because, again, he's another guy where his role diminished this year, which was a bit surprising because he looked really good in the playoffs last year. One of the guys that can knock the 3-pointer down pretty much at any point of the game. So again, we weren't using him. So if we're not going to use him, if we can get draft picks out of him, that doesn't hurt me. But if we're focusing right on the Norman Powell and the Gary Trent Jr. trade, I'm not so angry about it anymore. When I saw what Gary Trent Jr. can do, how young he is also, which is a big upside, and just how much he kind of embraced the We the North culture and the Raptors culture. I've probably said culture like 25 times in the past 5 minutes. But yeah, so I'm going to say it's tough because you would have liked them to pick up a center or do something in that realm, but it's tough. There wasn't many options, and getting a guy like Andre Drummond, it was not as easy, especially when the Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets and teams like that are in the running for these teams. It's almost impossible to pick up these players. It's getting a bit ridiculous. So anytime you can get a guy like Gary Trent Jr. who clearly loves to be here and he's happy to be here and he wants to be here, I think that's a big plus. So for what they do, I'll give it a B because I would say I was satisfied. I don't know how much more they could have done. I didn't want them to blow up the lineup because like I said, I think it's still early in this core. This is the new wave of the Raptors, right? We said goodbye to Serge Ibaka and we've said goodbye to many pieces that were the staple of the Raptors in the past decade. But now we got a new core, so we got to focus on that. We got to develop that, and I think there's hope in the future. I think the season's been crappy, but it's not all doom and gloom. I think there's been a lot of good things that have come out of it, and I think if Gary Trent Jr. decides to be a part of our lineup and he gets a little more consistently on defense and he picks up and he can continue putting up 44-point games, then yeah, I think he's a good piece in our lineup, and I'm not angry about that at all. So yeah, I don't know if we needed to trade Powell, but I'm not as angry with the return after seeing what Gary Trent Jr. can do. So I'll say a C. Or sorry, B. I said B.
B, yeah.
B.
What about not trading Kyle Lowry? Do you think that was the right decision for the Raptors?
For me, it's going to depend on what kind of contract he's looking for next year. Because obviously he's still an effective player and he has the championship pedigree and he's a big leader. And for me, without Kyle Lowry, at least in the few seasons, like for me, we're not winning the Stanley Cup. We're not winning with the chip without Kyle Lowry, in my opinion. So he's an integral part. So yeah, it probably would have been, it might've been smart, but for me, I was happy they didn't do it because again, my biggest thing is developing. I think he's such an important leader in the locker room and he has so many, look what he's done with Fred VanVleet. Obviously Fred VanVleet himself, he's done the work, but who knows what Fred would have been without Kyle Lowry and a figure in the locker room like Kyle Lowry. He's the face of the organization. So first of all, I think in such a crappy season, I feel like it would have been another hit. I feel like it would have been a hit to the fan base to trade him off. It would have just been like kind of the nail in the coffin for us to a disappointing season. So I'm happy that we have him. And again, if we make a playoff run, good experience can actually maybe help us do a little bit more of a run. Again, Malachi Flynn, him being integrated into the lineup. I think Kyle Lowry's a really important piece in that. But if he's looking for $30 million next year, then screw him because I don't want to pay him $30 million. So again, I think it's going to come down to what kind of money he's looking for. But I have to believe that him and Masai have talked and they figured it out, and there's a bit of a plan. Because you would hope they're talking to their stars, and you hope they're having a conversation with Kyle Lowry about what his future with the organization is. And I hope they based their decision not to trade him off the discussions with Kyle Lowry. But yeah, it would also be a shame if he just left in the offseason because that would be a waste. But if we can do a good playoff run and he gives the experience and he can, I don't know. I just like his mentorship and I like the role he plays in the Raptors. Again, I don't want to be paying him that much money, but yeah.
I think if he was to stay, and I think he will stay in the offseason, he's going to take a hometown discount. There's no way. And then, like what you said, like they would have traded him at the deadline if they knew he would be wanting like a big time contract and they just wouldn't be able to afford him, because Masai has definitely been in talks with him. But clearly at the deadline, the return just wasn't there, or the return that the Raptors were looking for Lowry just wasn't there. And it was the smart decision to hold on to him, I would assume. Do you think we could see another championship come out of the Raptors with Kyle Lowry on the team?
No. I just think with the young core we have now, I mean, I'm also, I need to see more to Pascal Siakam. I mean, obviously he's arguably our most talented player right now, but the consistency and his, he needs to be the guy. We need somebody to rely on, where if you always want, like Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs, for example, the one guy where no matter what happens with the team, you're going to have the one dude that's going to he's going to put up your 25 points. He's going to put up whatever your 20 points. He's going to play good defense and he's going to move the ball. You need a guy that's going to have consistent play every single night. We just haven't seen that from Pascal Siakam so far. But a championship seems like a stretch, especially with the development of other teams in the conference. Again, we have a young core. I think we're going to be a playoff team. I think we're going to be able to contend. Kawhi was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Also, you got to look at the injuries. If you're being unrealistic if you're not looking at the fact that Kevin Durant obviously wasn't a factor, but when he did when he came back, I think played, I don't know, like 11 minutes, and he had like 11 points, and he was a factor. And we lost that game pretty much because of the impact he made right out of the gate. So if he was in the lineup and then Klay Thompson going down, the injury-riddled season, might sound a bit pessimistic, but I don't think the Raptors are winning that championship. I hate to say it, but I think, not that we got lucky, because we did amazing and we beat the Sixers and we beat the Bucks, who were really good teams, but I don't know. I think Golden State at full force. Like, what can you do about it?
Sometimes you got to be lucky to win a championship. All these championship teams get lucky with injuries and stuff like that. Lucky bounces, we see it all the time in sports. So
that's why we're still championships. So screw them, right?
Exactly. You can't take it away from us. We're the champs.
Yeah. So am I going to see us repeating that again? Unless it's going to need Fred VanVleet's going to need to develop more. Pascal Siakam's going to need to develop a lot more. And then you're going to need to see pieces like OG Anunoby really come into his own. Obviously, he's had a really good season, but a little more maybe on the offensive end. And again, that's center. That's the big question mark right now. Who's going to be able to fill that role? Maybe it's Birch. Maybe it's not. Who knows at this point? I think we're going to need to see a little bit more development before we're getting to that point. But if I was to predict, and hopefully, I don't know if the Raptors will be playing back in Toronto next year, but maybe that'll make them a little more comfortable. But I think we'll be back in the playoff race very soon. I think this is just a season of I think this is a transition period of season, because last year I think people thought that was good. I thought people thought last season was going to be what happened this season. Kawhi Leonard leaves. What's the team's going to be? There's a little bit of question marks around that. And we ended up having a really good season. But this has kind of been, okay, no, this is where we're figuring things out. Obviously, like I said, Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol leaving the offseason left a big hole in our lineup, and there was a big piece of our core in a leadership role in the locker room as well. So playoff hopes, yes. Championship, I don't think so.
I think all we can definitively say is Aaron Baines is not the answer at center.
No. That was such a shame. I mean, I knew he wasn't. I didn't think he was ever going to recreate what the tandem of Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol brought for the team. But I just, at least from experience of watching him, and especially playing against the Raptors, he dominated the Raptors. He was a tough force inside. He was gritty. He just pretty much, he had a great season in Phoenix before he came to us, but it hasn't clicked. It's just, I don't know what it is. I was very disappointed. He's clearly not the guy we thought he was going to be, but he's not.
Yeah. It's a tough situation on our end, but I want your prediction. What does Kyle Lowry's next contract look like, and where is it?
I think it's going to be in Toronto. I'm hoping like, I think 20 to 25 million range would be realistic, because he's not going to get, for him to get less than 20 million for what he's done for this franchise, and he's got us a championship. it maybe be a little disrespectful. So I think he's gonna get a decent amount of money, especially if you're looking at other guys that are on contracts that are similar to that. Like I think Luke Kennard got signed for like 16, 17 million dollars with the Clippers this season. So if you're comparing it to other contracts, the way people are getting paid these days, he's gonna get paid. There's no doubt about that. But I think my prediction is that he's going to want to sign long term. I think he's going to want to retire with the Raptors because he's already said he
wanted to retire with the Raptors.
Yes, we already know that's for a fact, but I hope he like decidedly just settles down with us. It's been a nice relationship so far. So, I mean, how old are you right now? 34, 35?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I think. Yeah. So I could see like a 4-year contract, maybe like front loaded. I would say, because I mean, I think he can be. We've seen it this year. He's an effective player. He's still one of the best players on our team. And either way, like I said, his mentorship and his leadership role is always going to be there. So I think he's always an effective part of the lineup. And again, we're going to have to pay him for what he's already done for this team. He's not getting like he might get a discount, but I would be very surprised if he got dipped below 15 million. That's just. I don't know if he would even touch that contract. And I guarantee he'd get paid way more in other places anyways, so that would be unrealistic. But yeah, I would think like a 4 because we don't really want him past like 38, 39. Then you're getting into an area where he's really just going to be a burden in the lineup. But yeah, I think if he wants to retire, which I hope he does, and I think he does, I think a mid-range 4-year contract around 20, 25 million.
My prediction, I think he gets a 2-year 25 per contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, but but I think it's a sign and trade, and because they can't afford it just straight through free agency. And I think the Raptors tried to acquire somebody like Matisse Thybulle or Maxey in that deal and really develop that young guard and go full in on Fred and give Kyle another shot at winning a championship, because realistically in his window, the Raptors aren't going to be a championship team, but Philadelphia will be.
And that's the thing. I mean, he's a perfect piece for a team like the Clippers. Obviously, they picked up Rondo in the trade deadline, but they needed that guy that was literally, they needed Kyle Lowry, a guy that's a stable. He has the championship experience, playoff experience. He can do it on both ends. He's a dog. He's a player that really, like I said, any team would want, especially if they're going on a playoff run. He's a team that anybody would want. So there's obviously going to be a lot of interest for him. I mean, if he goes to the Sixers, I hate the Sixers. I'm not a Sixers guy whatsoever. I've never have been, never will be. I'm not a fan. So I hope he doesn't go to the Sixers, and I hope he doesn't leave the Raptors. But I also, if the contract is ridiculous and he's asking for a ridiculous amount, then that's just not realistic. So, yeah.
I think I'm going to go a mix in between both of your ideas. I'm going to say 2 years to the Raptors at like 25 mil, and then he signs another contract with the Raptors to close out his career at a lot lower than that, just to retire, maybe like a 1-year or a 2-year deal. Yeah, I don't know if he wants to leave, honestly. Like, I know like the championship might make sense, but he's already won the championship, and he might not really have the need to go out and win another.
Definitely takes a lot of weight off the shoulders. You don't feel like you're missing out anything. You don't feel like you need to leave to go to a contender and play. I mean, not that he would play a small role on that team, but maybe just a guy that comes off the bench, more of a locker room guy. You see players.
No, he'd be a starter for that.
Yeah, but I mean, depending on who they have in their lineup already. But I mean, you see, again, especially once you get older, you see players that literally their job is to be playoff contender players. It's just they join teams when they're making the rush, and he's a guy that can be like that. But I hope he sticks out with the Raptors. I mean, I have always been, especially earlier on in my Raptors watching days, I was up and down with Kyle Lowry. One day I wanted to trade him and get rid of him. One day I wanted to keep him. So it's been a really funky relationship, especially in the DeMar DeRozan days. I think that was more just frustration from the playoffs and them not being able to pull it together. But yeah, Kyle Lowry, it was a love-hate relationship, but now I love him, especially since he gave me a championship. So
very, very true. Final question on the Raptors before we talk a little bit about Mr. Jake Paul and all that fun stuff. But what do you think happens with Masai? Do you think the Toronto Raptors are able to re-sign him? Or do you think he tries to go on to non-NBA things? Or do you think he goes to a different NBA team?
Well, he'd already got a lot of traction from other NBA teams, especially after the championship and after the success he had done. And he'd been offered massive contracts and he didn't bite on it. So that leads me to believe he's pretty loyal to the Raptors. And interesting what you say about, is he going to want to still be in the role that he is now with basketball, because he does so much on the side in the Giants of Africa and all that. So I think as he goes on, he's not that old, right? So I think he still has a lot of years, especially if you see the Raptors, especially, this season and maybe next season, they're having a little bit of struggles. It might be a challenge for him that he wants to take on to kind of bring us and turn us around like he once did. So I don't know what his personal views are. I think he's loyal to the Raptors. It seems like he has been loyal to the Raptors. And he's part of the culture. He's part of the identity of the Raptors and everything that we do with it. So I think we can see him being in the organization for, I would say, at least a little bit of time, at least. I would hope at least kind of the same Kyle Lowry situation. But I would not be surprised if, at one point he wants to branch out and focus more on the Giants of Africa and the charitable things he does, because it's probably way more important than the game of basketball in many ways. So he's got a lot going on. He's obviously a really brilliant dude, and he's really smart, and he knows what he's doing. So I hope he stays with us, and I think he'll stay with us for the foreseeable future, but I would not be surprised if he starts kind of inching away from basketball a little more and start focusing on just being more of a charity man like he already is.
Yeah, he's 50 years old, so still, he's got 20 years left in him.
Young.
That's young. If he wants to. So
is he actually 50, right on the dot?
Yeah, on the dot. Born July 7th, 1970, I think it was, when I just Googled it.
Oh, okay.
I just Googled it. Yeah, I'm not that much of a genius. But yeah, I think that's the biggest question mark for me this summer is, can they re-sign Masai Ujiri, or are we going to have to go forward with just Bobby Webster, who is still great, obviously.
Yeah. And he gets overshadowed a lot because of Masai Ujiri. So I think that's kind of a shame for him. It seems like he kind of likes working in the shadows, because I feel like most NBA or Raptors fans don't even know who Bobby Webster is. If you're more of a casual, you hear about Masai all the time, but you never hear about Bobby Webster. But
yeah. I think we don't give Bobby enough credit, honestly. No. Nearly enough credit.
Nobody knows him.
No. But yeah, one thing we can say about the Raptors front office is it's very diverse, which is a very good thing. And if you watch Open Gym, you'll see they've got so many different people there who make that ship just function like nothing else on this planet.
It's all about just the culture, and what they've set up is special in Toronto. It's not like anything else. People that come to Toronto maybe not expect it. They feel it. They talk about it. You hear Lou Will talking crap a little bit about the Raptors, but he can.
Yeah,
we got him. He was the sixth man of the year here, so it couldn't have been that bad. And he was also just scared of the snow. But that's also another thing. For people to be devoted to the Toronto Raptors and then deal with the snow, it shows you how loyal they are. Like a guy in
it snowed today.
Exactly. Kyle Lowry even said at the beginning when he first came to the Raptors, or he didn't say, looking back on it, he was saying that he was only expecting to be here for a couple seasons. The winter and everything, it's very different. Many people haven't even been to Toronto before they come here. So once you fall in love with the city and the environment and the team, it seems like it's tough to get away.
Yeah. All right, let's finish off because we've been going for a long time and we do want to let you go. But finish off with the Jake Paul, Ben Askren fight. What are your thoughts on this fight, and was it rigged?
No, it was not rigged. I hate the sentiment, because everybody brings up that, you look back at the Robbie Lawler fight and the blows he took in that fight, and you look at other fights where he's taken a lot of damage. That's exact proof. It's proof against their argument. It's proof that, this guy's taken so much damage. He's been a professional fighter or professional wrestler for almost all of his life. He has a lot of brain damage, and it's definitely built up. I think also if you take a year off, maybe you're he wasn't in the fighting mentality, kind of been out of it for a while. So I think the idea that this was rigged was a bit ridiculous, because first of all, if you told me that Ben Askren was going to get knocked out in the first round by Jake Paul, I would have told you, yes, that's exactly what's going to happen, because I've been talking about it for months on my podcast with my buddy. Ben Askren is a crappy striker. He doesn't have the boxing, the striking ability that even a guy like Jake Paul has. And Jake Paul clearly has power. You saw the way Ben Askren fell. It was like a ton of bricks. I think the idea that, first of all, that he would rig this, it's embarrassing for him, right? Like, he talked about it. You don't want to be the center of attention. You're flat out on a canvas when everybody in the world wanted you and was expecting you. Maybe not expecting you, but definitely wanted you to knock out Jake Paul. I would have been mad if Jake Paul got knocked out. I'm not a fan of Jake Paul. I just assumed that he was going to knock out Ben Askren because Ben Askren's not a great boxer. But yeah, the number one thing I think it's rigged is because the only argument people bring up, at least from what I heard, is that he's taken all this damage in MMA and he never got knocked out. But for me, that's exactly the reason why I think he did get knocked out, is because he's taken all this brain damage, and his last few fights didn't go so well. Obviously, he got kneed in the face by Jorge Masvidal, which is just more damage. So yeah, I don't see what benefits there would be to rigging this. Especially against a guy like Jake Paul. Why would you want to purposely lose to him? That's so embarrassing.
One word.
Money.
But he made $1 million. Like, he came out with it anyways.
Made $500K. Yeah.
But wasn't it a
lot?
I think maybe a sponsorship and stuff on top of that. Maybe he added into it, because he said he walked away with $1 million. So yeah, obviously money's a part of it, but I don't know. I just think
it would make okay. I can see the argument from both sides, honestly. Like, I can see why people think it's rigged, and like just the fact that it was in the first round and the big payday and him coming out of retirement for this, and it's Jake Paul. Like, you assume that it's rigged, but it's not. Like, you saw the knockout; it was vicious. That wasn't rigged.
But also, what's Jake Paul going to get out of rigging this fight? Because okay, maybe he's able to rig one fight with Ben Askren, but then if you go trying rigging fights with everybody else, first of all, you're going to get exposed. If you try going to MMA fighters and they're like, let's rig this fight, I'm like, I'm not going to purposely lose to you just so you can get this money or we can get some money, because it's embarrassing for them, especially Ben Askren might not be a good striker, but he's still a former MMA champion, like a champion, right? He's got some pride in himself, I would hope. So I don't know. Also, if Jake Paul rigs this fight, knocks out Ben Askren, is he going to feel comfortable going? Like, he's talking about fighting Tyron Woodley now. He's not going to feel comfortable going in a ring with Tyron Woodley after rigging a fight against a horrible boxer. So I don't know. I just think for it to be rigged would just be. I think it's a massive stretch.
Yeah,
I believe so.
It's not.
I don't think so.
All right. And with that, I think we will let you go, because we've kept you for what, 2.5 hours at this point? 3.5 hours? I don't know, something like that.
Covered a lot.
We've covered a lot. Everything from your fan-sided work to being a youth hockey league reporter for a day,
Big day.
to your dreaming and everything in between.
Yeah, we could have done 2.5 hours just on my dreams and my dream log.
Easily.
You should do it. Relay pod.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. But we'll link all of your stuff down below. Your Twitter is at DanaRyan61. Your Instagram at DanaRyan61. I wonder what your hockey number was.
Yeah, good call.
So we'll link all that, including Dana Ryan Productions, which we didn't talk a huge amount about, but it's where you upload all your stuff. So we'll link all that down below. But Dana, thank you so much for joining us. This was a ton of fun. Yes.
Thanks for having me. I had fun too.
It was a marathon of an interview. But we did get some sports talk in, which was fun, getting your thoughts on the Raptors and all that stuff. So thank you. Thank you. And yeah, we'll be back probably in a couple weeks with another episode, another guest. Definitely not next week, because I got to cram to finish all my lectures for my exam next week. But
that sucks.
Yeah. We will see you in a couple weeks. Yeah. Peace.